David, can you please give us a thumbs up if you're hearing us?
Yeah, this is way better.
Okay, I don't know where he's coming through, but okay, good. Okay, well, after all that, special reports of student representatives is our first. Oh, I'm sorry, the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I'm happy that we have our reports of special report of student representatives. Do we have anyone here from Charles E. Shea High School?
Hello, thank you all for having me. My name is Clanera Santos. I am the president of the sophomore class, and I'm here to tell you our Shea happenings. Our amazing principal, Dr. Ash, welcomed us back with a new newsletter. It features information about the school's upcoming clubs and activities. It also gives kids a mental health note, and it gets them prepared for exam season. The sophomore class made over $100 on their raffle. The winners were our very own Miss Cafaro and Miss Borden. They also made $200 at their bake sale this past Thursday. We want to send a special thank you to Miss Monahan, Miss Pezza, and Dr. Ash. The Student Council will be meeting Wednesday. We will be planning our next Spirit Week and our next bake sale for the week of February 14th. Students are starting to prepare for exams. The Student Council will be setting up a countdown in the middle of right next to the office. We will also be leaving encouraging messages around the halls in different languages to comfort the students. There will be a family engagement meeting tomorrow, January 12th at 6 p.m. This meeting will be virtual for all our families. We practiced a lockdown about 2 weeks ago. The students and the teachers did great. The students are now allowed to carry backpacks in school. The feedback has been amazing. The students are thankful and more relieved. This makes it easier to travel from floor to floor and get to all their classes on time. Our sports news. Our Lady Raiders had their first home game in the new year against the Blue Waves from Hope High School. The ladies got out a very quick start and never looked back in the contest. Our final was 63-20. Our ladies moved 4-0 in this season. Their next game will be tomorrow away against the Lincoln Lions. The Shea Raider boys basketball defeated the Tiverton Tigers 47-39 yesterday. The Raiders were led in scoring by Joy Serrano with 15 points and Malik Matani with 14 points. The girls indoor track team performed very well in that meet last night. Jasmine posted times of 9.34 seconds in a 55-meter dash and 59.45 seconds in a 300-meter dash. Great job to all the students. We also elected a student council president, Essa Yusuf, and we also elected Vice President Anthony Cruz, Communication Director Christian Saraft, Historian Maria Carrera, and we're still looking to fill someone for the position of parliamentarian. Our Key Club news. Right before break, the Key Club gave teachers a special surprise. To celebrate the holidays, we put candies, cookies, chocolates, and coffee in the teachers' room. The teachers were so thankful, and we all want to send a special shout out to our advisor, Ms. Carpelli, who put this all together. We also are working on building the freshman wall, which we will be painting and putting the names of the freshmen. Right now, we're finalizing designs, and we're excited to get working very soon. We also made 13 blankets, which we will be donating to shelters and unwed mothers. That is all. Thank you for having me.
Do we have a representative here from William E. Tolman High School?
Hi, I'm Ryan Manasian I'm a junior from Tolman. Access testing for our ELL students began yesterday. Testing will continue for the next 4 weeks. Semester 1 exams begin Thursday, January 20th. The second semester will begin on January 26th. We are happy to announce that Ms. Paridi and Mrs. Roberts have committed to serving as our yearbook advisors. The first yearbook meeting was held this afternoon. Picture makeups were originally scheduled for this week. However, they have been postponed and will be rescheduled shortly. The Tolman girls basketball team won the Donaldson Lynch Holiday Tournament back in December. The girls defeated perennial champion St. Raphael Academy to win the title. The Tolman boys, girls, and freshman boys basketball teams are all undefeated in league play. This Friday evening, the Tolman boys basketball team will work to keep their undefeated record Alive against crosstown rival Shea. The game is scheduled for 6:30 at Shea High School. Thank you.
Do we have a representative from Jacqueline M. Walsh School for Performing and Visual Arts?
Hello, my name is Delana Degnan, and I'm a senior theater major at Jacqueline M. Walsh. Before winter break, the Student Council hosted a short holiday spirit week where students rocked ugly sweaters, holiday pajamas, and dressed to impress for our Probability and Statistics class's Casino Day, where they shared games they created using their own concepts. Our winter culmination was virtual this year. However, our sophomore theater students presented Antigone live, and students performed their culmination presentations in person on December 22nd. You can view these performances on YouTube at tinyurl.com/JMW Winter Show 2021. At the end of December, our chorus students were invited to perform some holiday songs at RISCI. And some of our upcoming events, we have midterms starting on Thursday, January 20th, and it will run until Tuesday, January 25th, which is also the last day of our first semester. Our auditions are coming up for the first 2 weeks of February, and we are looking forward to meeting the prospective students. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have the approval of previous meeting minutes, 12/2/21, 12/14/21, 12/20/21, and 1/4/22. It's been a motion to approve all of them by Ms. Bonolo. It's been seconded by Ms. Grant. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Next up on our agenda is public participation. Ms. Liss, is there anyone in addition to the ones I have right here signed up for public participation?
Yes.
Okay.
The first person is Mr. LaBranch, Kyle LaBranch.
Okay. Mr. LaBranch? Ask that people limit their participation to under 2 minutes. That would be appreciated. Thank you.
I'll do the best I can. Thank you. Members of the committee, my name is Kyle LaBranch, and I'm a math teacher at JMW. As many of you have already heard, our staff, student body, alumni, and parents are overwhelmingly opposed to rolling JMW into the new unified high school. Many of us shared our perspective with the ad hoc committee, whose members graciously heard and often agreed with our perspective, but made it clear that a decision to include or exclude JMW would have to be made by this committee. Therefore, we're here tonight to urge you to preserve JMW as an independent arts high school. JMW is a unique setting in which young artists receive a high-quality education in both the arts and academics. According to the RIDE website, JMW has the highest graduation rate in the state. Our SAT proficiency levels are above the state average and more than double the Pawtucket average. Our SAT English proficiency is above competing charter schools like BVP, and our math scores are higher than Davies, you know, the tech school. That said, while JMW's artistic and academic results have been an asset to our community, tonight I'd like to focus on something different. There is one element of JMW that most directly leads to our success. One trait universally valued by faculty, parents, and students, past, present, and future. That at JMW, you can be yourself. I understand that outside of the JMW community, a misconception may have developed about what that means. So please allow me to clarify. At JMW, the value of being yourself is not limited to any particular sexual orientation or gender identity. At JMW, we celebrate our students' differences, not to make one particular type of student feel comfortable, but rather so that all types of students feel comfortable. Let's be honest, artists can be a bit different, a bit shy, a bit strange. The success stories of atypical students at JMW are endless. From an autistic student who became a debate champion, valedictorian, and eventually math teacher, to a selective mute who spoke not one word in 4 years at our school, but left an impact on her peers and teachers that still echoes through our halls. Our students are not all gay. They are not all straight, not all black or white or male or female, but they are all artists. Artists who flourish because they exist in a culture that focuses on creativity. a culture that would be lost if JMW were rolled into a super high school. Years ago, this city embraced the potential of development through the arts. A citywide movement to promote the arts included the creation of the state's first audition-only arts high school. With the support of this committee, that school has proven to be what we hoped it could be. Just as the JMW community has cultivated the creativity of so many students, the commitment of this committee has cultivated that community. At this crucial juncture, we ask you once again to protect the amazing educational environment that you successfully created. Protect the proven asset that allows Pawtucket to retain our most creative students and draw talent and revenue from around the state. A new high school could be one great option for Pawtucket students. Why not give them two? Why eliminate an option for our students at a time when we are fighting to keep our best and brightest enrolled in our schools? U.S. News and World Report recognizes JMW, a Pawtucket public high school, as one of the state's top 10 high schools. We have succeeded, and we have done so with your support. I urge you to continue your support by voting to maintain JMW as an independent arts high school. Thank you.
The next person joining us is Taylor Perez, and she's joining virtually, or Taylor's joining virtually, am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Awesome. Getting a really bad echo. I hope that doesn't come through when I'm talking. But hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight. I hope everyone is doing well. It's really an honor to be able to speak on behalf of the JMW community. So really, thank you. I'm clocking in at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So sorry to keep you all an extra minute and a half. But my name is Taylor Perez. I've lived in Pawtucket my whole life, where I'm now a homeowner, a voter, and a taxpayer. As a kid, I went to Winters, Jenks, and then finally JMW, where I graduated in 2015 as a visual arts major. I then went to Boston University, where I graduated cum laude with my master's in 2019. And I now work professionally in municipal and regional planning for the state of Massachusetts as a senior comprehensive planner at the Southeastern Regional Planning and Economic Development District. There, I primarily focus on affordable housing production, community engagement, and arts and culture initiatives for the 27 cities and towns that we plan for. So in a nutshell, essentially one of my responsibilities as an urban planner is to help cities and towns make decisions just like the one that we're discussing tonight regarding JMW. Something I see often in my profession is the want for more arts and culture amenities and strong educational programs that make a city or a town desirable to live in. Truthfully, JMW truly is one of these assets to Pawtucket. It provides a unique opportunity that even students from out of state wish to be a part of, something that is clearly filling a void for kids not just from Pawtucket, but broadly across Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts. I personally attribute much of my success in life to the foundation that I built at JMW. I thrived there because I was allowed to grow alongside the individuals in my class, because at the end of the day, we were like a family. I and many students I knew there faced overwhelming personal challenges, and yet we all made it through, much of which I attribute to the strong support networks that we built with each other and the faculty. There, I made lifelong friends, and I learned invaluable skills that I think made both my college and job applications unique. To this day, I still utilize what I learned in Mr. Kane's classroom over those 4 years to visualize data, create maps, and design reports for cities and towns just like Pawtucket. I do not think that I could have learned nearly as much if I had not been under Kane's guidance at JMW. So shout out to Mr. Kane if you're watching. And lastly, any artist knows that it's not about the resources you have in hand, but what you make of it. Better brushes, paints, dance studios, practice rooms, and stages are one of the many parts of an artist's road to success, but usually it's not what they start with. The best painters, musicians, dancers, and actors that I know can create something wonderful with essentially nothing. I do not know a single artist that would sacrifice what JMW was and is for a better space. What matters most is the community that you create amongst, a community of bright young artists who mutually support and uplift each other's creative endeavors with empathy and enthusiasm. While it would be great to improve the facilities for JMW students, I truly do not think that it would make much of a difference if those students cannot create among and with each other in the way that they do at JMW. And by the way, as a taxpayer, I will remind folks that allowing JMW to continue independently, just like it has done successfully for nearly 2 decades now, is the significantly cheaper option. To that end, I'm here to say that I think JMW should and deserves to remain its own separate school for the good of the students who wish to be there, the teachers who work so hard to help their students succeed, and much to the benefit of the city of Pawtucket. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Okay, next up is somebody participating in person, and that's Delana Degnan.
Hello, my name's Delana Degnan, and I'm a theater major at JMW. My main reason for choosing to attend this school is because I'm interested in pursuing theater for my career. I was hopeful that by starting my studies in high school, I would already have extra preparation prior to college. After attending this school for almost 4 years, I found that this is exactly the case. If the programs JMW offers were placed in a larger setting, I do not believe they would be as impactful as they are now. The arts, especially theater, are collaborative. When you are putting together a performance or working on materials, you are able to feed off of the energy from each other. And JMW has the perfect environment for this since everyone is passionate about the work they are doing. When you are placed in a setting with creative-minded students, you are able to collaborate on many different levels, whether in arts classes or academics. However, in a school where the arts aren't the focus, students who are disinterested in these pathways may take classes out of a need for credit or lack of options, rather than out of a sincere interest or passion. From experience with this in middle school, I know that this could drag the classes down, and the students pursuing those pathways do not receive the same quality experience. I genuinely feel like if I was in a position where there was no option to attend an arts-focused school like JMW, it would be a serious setback when preparing for my career. For all of these reasons, I urge you to continue to keep JMW its own school. Thank you.
Delana. Next up, we have Noah Strunen, who is participating in person.
Hi, my name is Noah Strunen. I'm 16 years old, a lifelong Pawtucket resident, and a proud 10th grade student at JMW School for the Performing Arts. I've come to express my opposition to the proposal of a unified Pawtucket High School with JMW included in it. One of the things that I love most about JMW is its small size and close-knit community. Everyone knows each other, and everyone is highly supportive and respectful to one another at all times. JMW only raises kind students, decent people, in a world where not everyone is always decent. JMW creates a safe space for students who otherwise might not feel so safe. The friendly atmosphere aims to lift students up and to help us become the best versions of ourselves, not drag us down. A place where we can actually be who we want to be. A place where students can openly, unapologetically express their individuality without fear of persecution from their fellow students or their teachers. We get to experience something that could never happen in a school of 2,500 students. The teachers here are able to know every student by name. This creates a special bond between us, a rare bond between each and every student and each and every teacher. I feel as though I can trust my teachers and be mentored by them because they know us so well and take genuine interest in helping us excel. I practice film, music, and theater, amongst other things. And at JMW, I'm finally in a place where I can take those classes and get proper exposure to what I want to do as a career. The 90-minute class times are essential for our art, and that's something I really appreciate. Unlike a 45-minute class, in 90 minutes, we're actually able to start projects, practice an instrument, complete a sculpture, edit a short film, choreograph a dance, or stage a play. I'm afraid that I wouldn't be able to do these things at any other school, not just because of large class sizes and low availability, but also because I might be locked into a one-size-fits-all standardized curriculum. JMW is a golden nugget. In fact, I've called it the golden nugget of Pawtucket. As I stated earlier, I'm a lifelong Pawtucket resident. My parents are Pawtucket taxpayers. If JMW didn't exist as it does now, I would be in either a charter school or a private school right now. My younger brother is in 6th grade and is looking forward to attending JMW when he gets to high school. Otherwise, he wouldn't go to a Pawtucket school either. Students come from all over the state to experience our one-of-a-kind school. Don't get rid of the golden nugget. Protect it, treasure it the way we do. It's precious to us. These artists and poets from JMW will go out to change the world and blow us all away. Do not deny future generations of us that opportunity. Thank you.
Next up is Jessica Strunen participating in person. We have someone participating virtually. You have the list. Okay.
My name is Jessica Strunen. I'm a parent of Noah Strunen, who attends JMW, and I also strongly oppose the proposal for Unified Pawtucket High School with JMW included in it. As a performing arts educator in a public school, I know how important it is for students to feel safe and valued in order to get the best education that is due to them. JMW is a fantastic school that does just that. My child feels safe and valued in this school. He is surrounded by other students and faculty who are there to foster their students' knowledge and make sure that their love for the arts continue to grow. These students can be who they are. Scheduling is always difficult because if students are able to be immersed in whatever class they currently have, there's plenty of time to teach a lesson and apply the skills that are being taught immediately. This rings true for all classes, not just the art-oriented ones, but the academic ones as well. As Noah previously stated, my youngest son is in 6th grade, and he is so looking forward to applying and hopefully attending JMW. And I want him to go here. Unfortunately, if JMW changes from its current format and is included in the new school proposal, he probably will not be going at all. So please remove JMW from the proposal of the Universal Pawtucket, please remove JMW from the proposal of a Unified Pawtucket High School. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we're bringing in Sydney Beanstalk, and we're gonna do the.
Hi everyone, as you heard, my name is Sydney Beanstalk and I am a proud JMW alum. I am here tonight to express my disapproval of a unified high school, including JMW. Everybody knows that the arts are always the first to be cut from schools. This is one of the reasons why I'm skeptical of one giant school, even if the arts would still be an option. Who's to say that they wouldn't end up taking the back burner? And even if they didn't, it still wouldn't be the same. All of the students interested in the arts would be cast aside as the weird kids, which is ironic because the ongoing joke at JMW has always been that we never had to deal with the traditional social hierarchy that plagues other high schools. So many people I graduated JMW with have entered the arts as professionals. I think about what would have probably happened if they had attended a high school where the arts had only been an option. I think about all the male dance majors who put their heart and soul into a dance for a show that the whole school was required to attend during the day. At JMW, they were met with applause and appreciation. At any other school, the other students would have muttered verbal atrocities such as the F slur or fairy. Do you really think these students would have gone on to become professional dancers if their high school community never fostered their interest in the first place? If COVID has taught us anything, it's that the world is full of trauma. Who knows? Maybe in the next pandemic in 50 years, the only way you will survive quarantine is by listening to a certain song on repeat. Maybe you will then click on the artist's biography blurb on Spotify and find out that the singer actually attended JMW Pawtucket. I really hope you do reconsider unified high school and instead continue to support JMW's independence. Thank you.
Okay, our last participant is Mr. Baxter, John Baxter. I believe he's here in person. Yes. Okay.
Good evening, folks. I come before you tonight as a resident, a parent, and a member of the ad hoc committee to study high school academic complex. And if I may, I would like to thank ad hoc committee chair Carbino for inviting me to serve on this committee. Jay, thank you again. Additionally, I'm a former member of the Pawtucket School Committee, and in 2005, served the committee as its vice chair when we opened the doors to the Jacqueline M. Walsh School for the Performing and Visual Arts. I'm here to address a question, much as I and others on the ad hoc committee did at our own meetings, about whether this school and its students should be included or excluded in the proposed unified high school that we collectively considered. While unexpected at the time, the committee engaged in dialogue about including JMW in the plan to unify our two main high schools. Several spoke about the issue of equity and whether it was equitable to maintain a separate arts high school alongside a unified high school. As there are questions today about the equity that exists or doesn't exist, as it were, with respect to JMW, Shea, and Tolman. Speaking for myself, and if I may endeavor to speak for my colleagues on the school committee back when we opened JMW, the issue of equity didn't confront us. For had we only concerned ourselves with equity, we probably wouldn't have opened JMW in the first place. Rather, our concern was about choice, offering our students an alternative form of education. It became that school committee's mission, especially at a period in time that bore witness to the proliferation of charter schools and mural academies. I'm sure many of you remember that period, as we lost students to those schools. We had to act, and we did, and now today, JMW is one of the highest ranked, highest performing high schools in the state, and boasts one of, if not the highest graduation rates of all of Rhode Island's public high schools. That was made possible by offering our students a choice. Happens. What happened to offering students and their families this choice? Why would this school committee or our school department consider stripping the students of this choice? If your concern is equity, why don't you let the students themselves and their families decide what they deem equitable? It could be this simple. If the student wishes to take advantage of the opportunities this unified high school offers, they have that opportunity. If that same student wishes for the educational experience that JMW offers, they have that opportunity as well, so long as they're afforded the choice. When left for the student to decide, this issue or argument over equity is no longer relevant. It's about choice. Now, to be clear, a bond was passed to renovate both Shea and Tolman high schools. Those of us who live here voted for it. We supported it. I know I did. That bond did not include renovations to JMW. JMW is not in the conversation or part of any consideration. And to be clear, JMW is not alone in offering visual and performance arts programming. Shea and Tolman each offer arts programs of their own. All of our students across the city have access to arts programming, and they've also had a choice for the last 16 years. Now, over the course of several ad hoc committee meetings, just like we see tonight, the committee was addressed by numerous students and faculty urging that committee to keep JMW where it is and not fold it into this unified high school. At no time was the committee addressed by students, faculty, or the public at large to suggest otherwise. Here's the point to remember. If we want to ensure success at the ballot box for a bond referendum, our message when we go to our public and urge support for this unified high school must be unified. We are not at that place today, clearly. And despite the strong support of our residents in approving school improvement bonds, one should not assume a bond and a project of this magnitude can assume that same level of support. Moreover, the plan produced by our project development consultant at the ad hoc committee, that the ad hoc committee had forwarded to this committee, offers a facility that will accommodate 2,500 students. That would include 2,000 students from Shea and Tolman, along with an anticipated number of Pawtucket students who would otherwise be attending Davies Career and Technical High School. The capacity then allows for anticipated students from out of district, as well as families who would choose to live in Pawtucket to take advantage of this new school. Realistically speaking, there's little to no room for an additional 200 to 250 students that traditionally attend JMW. By trying to squeeze them in, we become East Providence High School. A model for new school construction, for sure, but one that didn't anticipate the need for an increased school population. I'd like to think that the ad hoc committee learns from their experience. And my hope is that this committee learns from that as well. As I said to my colleagues on the ad hoc committee at our final meeting, if the fate of this project hinges on whether to maintain or fold JMW, we are all responsible for that outcome. I urge the school committee members to step carefully, choose wisely. It's for our students. Let them decide. Thank you very much.
We will now move into old business action discussion items, Essa 3. Dr. McWilliams.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to be bringing before you our draft plan, and I'm going to ask my team to come up who is going to be presenting with us. We did have a wide range of participants putting this together, but we do have Assistant Superintendent Ramsey, Assistant Superintendent Rabbit, CFO Melissa Devine, and Chief Teaching and Learning Officer Sarah Kudamash, who are going to share in this presentation. And Dr. Andre, thank you for running it for us. We'll get it up on the screen. I don't know if we can maybe dim the lights some. No, it was kind of last minute, right? So we'll get it to you tomorrow. Yeah. This was it's a very large undertaking. Thank you. So I want to start by saying, so tonight we are providing you with an overview of the process, anticipated scope of work, and the draft estimation of funds aligned to the buckets and priorities as outlined in the guidance. As with all of our grants, there is strict adherence to the guidelines with approval, oversight, and monitoring of funds through RIDE and their database Excel grants. All funds are layered to support the district's strategic plan and also align to the LEAP initiatives. And the LEAP initiatives focus on learning, equity, accelerated pathways. And the focus of the plan and the guidance from Essa, the Essa 3 American Rescue Plan Act, is on student achievement, mitigating learning loss, addressing subgroups, particularly economically disadvantaged and specialized population, including MLLs and differently abled. So just as a reminder, our strategic plan, which we had brought earlier in the year, the focus of those priorities are strong foundations, engaging communities, and of course, with the LEAP priority, getting us back into school. And another priority is shared accountability, excellence in learning, with the LEAP a priority of personalized learning. Another priority, globally competent citizens and world-class talent. And lastly, systems improvement, which is infrastructure and improving our physical environment. And the LEAP alignment to that is closing the divide, digital divide. If you could go to the next slide, thank you. So we are allotted 31.6 million, and up to 4 million of that, if we, in our participation with the district support program, we will get a match in addition to a 4 million. So we're really looking at a 35.6 million allotment of program and things that we can do. Yes. You should be on, is this slide 2? Yes, slide 2. So I'm actually just kind of giving you an overview, and then we're actually going to go into the detailed, process with each speaker that comes up. So the application requirements of Essa 3, the American Rescue Plan Act, is to plan for a safe return to school, which is what we did at the beginning of the year in our back to school plans. And then we have to address 20% of the funds has to address learning loss, and it has to be tiered evidence-based research, which we're going to go into describing that a little bit further. There has to be interventions that address social emotional learning, mental health, academic needs for all students, including those disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. That's economically disadvantaged, differently abled, and MLLs. And maintenance of equity, what that means is that that's the state's portion. They have to maintain our maintenance of equity for our regular budget, and it can't go it can't go below 2019. Thank you, Dr. Andrew. If you can go to the next slide. Continuing this is just an overview of the application process. It's a very detailed application. We have to have our back to school plans publicly posted, which they are posted, which we did consult and have consulted all along with our back to school plans and our strategic plans, consulting with stakeholders. And we have to submit our plan to RIDE through the Excel Grants platform. And that once it's submitting it approved, that goes, that is open to the public. And we have to use quantitative and qualitative data. So that's one of the things that's very critical in this grant. You just can't write budget lines and say, I want to do this. You actually have to have evidence, support, research data, which we will also go over on every initiative that you do. And then you actually have to align SMART goals to our strategic plan and the LEAP priorities as well. And Mrs. Quartermaster O'Brien, if you could go on to your slides that you're going to share.
Thank you. The application requirements lead into the outline use of funds with specific percentages assigned to priority areas. And as Superintendent McWilliams outlined, the first priority area has a 20% requirement for learning loss and evidence-based interventions. Under the Every Student Succeeds Act, which replaced No Child Left Behind, we ensure there are appropriate validity studies that prove what we purchase or what we implement actually works. These application requirements also delineate the first, second, third, and fourth tier of evidence as follows. The first tier of evidence outlines experimental studies. The second outlines quasi-experimental studies. The third correlational with controls, and the fourth rationale. Our district always prioritizes the first three tiers, and that is true for other grants and other funding streams that we have implemented in the past. To give you a broader scope of big picture priority areas, again in alignment with our strategic plan, RIDE's LEAP initiatives, you will see before you a focus on the expansion of scopes of work with partner agencies with the intent to mitigate deficit content areas and to support our special populations, multilingual learners, and differently abled students. In addition, extended learning opportunities layered with evidence-based integrated tiered systems of support that support the whole child model. In Pawtucket, we focus on RTI-A for academics, which is response to intervention Intervention B, which focuses on behavioral, social, emotional needs for at-risk students. And all of this work is done in collaboration with community partners. We seek to expand the social emotional learning and mental health services that we have increased over the duration of COVID. Expansion of behavioral supports for our priority schools, the schools most in need that have 1 star as their metric rating. To expand our high quality curriculum materials and supplemental materials, and to provide more evidence-based content interventions to those most in need. And finally, enrichment, career and technical education, and as you heard tonight, arts program opportunities.
Good evening. In continuation with the ESSER 3 allocation, the draft allocation, the remaining LEA funds may be used for a variety of different activities that address issues from the coronavirus. So it's specifically, all right, so Sarah's a lot younger than me and she can read in the dark. So I can't read in the dark. So I'm so sorry. If somebody's, thank you, either going to help me with a light or Kyle to the rescue. Okay, the old lady assistant superintendent is now going to read with a flashlight. So sorry, everyone. So we are coordinating preparedness and response efforts with the state and local issues we prepare for and respond to COVID-19. We're going to train and professionally develop people on the spread of minimizing the spread of infectious diseases. We're going to purchase supplemental supplies to sanitize and clean the facilities. We're going to repair and improve school facilities. These are the opportunities that we have to continue funds. So for Pawtucket, this breaks down to the following key initiatives. Next, that's me, next slide. Gotcha. New to this. Remaining LEA funds may be used to continue to purchase educational technology like hardware, software, connectivity, assistive technology, adaptive technology. Provide mental health services, as Sarah indicated, and supports through including implementation of school-based evidence, full community service schools, and hiring of counselors. Planning and implementing activities related to summer learning, other activities that are necessary to maintain operation and of services and continuing employer existing high LEA school staff. All right, so our draft recommendations include the following allocations. We will be re-engaging and empowering chronically absent youth over age under accredited. We're going to help those that have been tardy or consistently absent.
Just to clarify something for the committee, I just want to clarify with Dr. McWilliams. We are not voting on a final plan tonight. Am I correct? That this is us, we are going to be discussing this and at our next meeting.
Yeah, this is a draft recommendation.
Okay, just because I know the committee did not have all of this in advance
Right.
to look through. So this is an initial presentation that we can discuss. And then at our next meeting, we can give a final approval of this submission. Am I correct?
Mhm.
I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Ms. Ramsey.
Not a problem, Chair. These are recommendations for your review. Extended learning opportunities, so that we're going to encourage before and after school programming, SEL and wellness for mental health, family and community engagement, a PD series surrounding family and community engagement, COVID mitigation strategies. Yes, ma'am. 100%. They don't, I'm highlighting.
Okay.
And these are the delineations of the facts that I'm highlighting. So I'm kind of taking everything, putting them into umbrellas, and these are the details under the umbrella.
Okay.
All right, so like the next thing I'm talking about is COVID mitigation. So you're going to see masks and other PPE with the delineated dollar amount. You're going to see opportunity gap closure, and that will be delineated with a specific dollar amount. Okay, so opportunity gap closure, enhanced CTE and arts enrichment, and at-risk differently abled MLL targeted interventions. Those are all detailed for you on this slide with a specific draft projection of a dollar amount for that item.
So these items fit into the bucket?
The bucket,
Right,
yes.
okay.
And
But
so
are there, who chose these items? In other words, we're gonna buy 20 units, 20 misters at $1,600 a piece, and then we're gonna buy 2 years worth of the chemical that goes in it. So I start to think, why would we invest, or why would we spend that for 2 years and then they're gonna disappear?
So the thing is, so there are big budget buckets, as you'll see. There's back to school, there's extended learning, there's closing the digital divide, and then there's other or infrastructure and the physical environment. And within those buckets, you have to mitigate, whether it's, in this case, mitigate the COVID-19. So there's certain things that you are looking to do so that is, so like, for instance, you're buying the purifiers and the filters that are going to help us for the next 2 years. That's something that we do. So what you're saying is at the end of 2 years, what happens? That's going to be the way with anything that's in a grant at the end of 2 years. What happens to the items? You know, what happens to what you're saying is sustainability? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Right. So, and a perfect example would be, we've outfitted a majority, if not all of the classrooms with HEPA filters and different air purification devices.
Mm-hmm.
do we have the required
Continuation.
inventory to replace filters and to replace parts of the units we've already bought?
So, and I'll ask CFO Melissa to jump in, and then maybe even John, because these, the participation was our entire, district participating in what they think that we need that would fit into these budgets. But Melissa, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, sure, I can. So one of the first things I think I heard you mention, Mr. Shabanow, was why, who looked at some of these items. There was a number of employees that involved with participating in recommending some ideas so that the school committee could review it. And so the misters in this instance would be from Mr. Cody, and we have previously purchased misters. They get used quite often, so we figured that, the opportunity was to put some additional replacement misters in. And then, again, some of the supplies, the air purifiers that were provided by the state, plus the additional ones that were purchased by the district with, I believe, the first ESSA funds. Those, we did buy significant air filters, and I think that we had bought some out of the capital funds to replace them. So we actually currently have about 2 years on hand, and that's why we're putting in, this is a 3-year grant, and we're putting in for 2 additional years. So what we're trying to do is, there was a lot of stakeholders at the table to give the school committee a number of recommendations that you may or may not want to move forward in the application. These are things that will probably qualify. We don't even know, even if you said everything in this, in the recommendation was, hey, go forward with everything, we don't know what RIDE will approve. They're going to pick and choose.
Understood, and I completely trust the team that reviewed this, but this is the first time this committee is seeing this document.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to look to approve it at the next meeting. So when do we weigh in and say, hey, what's this about? Or how come we're doing this? Or it seems like this is what we're buying, and at the next meeting, we're expected to approve it. And
yeah, I do think that right now, the questions should be coming now. So, but like I clarified, we're looking at this for the first time. So we as a committee may decide that we need to have another meeting next week. This is a 30, how much money?
31 million in
And
all
the
honesty.
reality is that, this is unprecedented that we would be doing this type of budget at work kind of at this time. But as a committee, we may decide that we need to have another meeting next week, a work session just to look at Essa before that final.
yeah, I think I'm there.
but-
I think I'm there already.
and-
We're talking almost $40 million, and
And I do want to clarify that RIDE only gave these regulations to school departments right before the holidays. So and then said to turn it around by the end of January. Yeah. Ms. Bonello?
That was my question. How long have you been working on this
When we return from
application?
the holiday, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it is a tight turnaround that they give us to say, figure this out. But so hopefully those questions will come tonight. And then as Mr. Charbonneau indicated, we might be looking at a work session next week to look at this again before our final work session. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Lisa, I'm done. Thank you so much, everyone. Mrs. Rabbit is next.
Good evening. I'm a little shorter. So I'm going to continue on the various buckets in this grant and the draft recommendations. So we're looking here at expanded learning. These are draft recommendations. We're looking at high quality programmatic resources, pre-K through 12, tutoring with extended summer programming, expanded ramp up, content credit recovery, expanded scope of work with community partners, community-based organization expansion, Pawtucket School Department community connections, and small group extended supports. Which one do you want to go back to?
So I jumped it. I want to just explain. So her categories were broad, and they covered both of these slides. So those categories covered expanded learning 1.
Can you repeat the question? I can't say. You want to speak to it? Which?
The bus cleaning.
Oh, I could talk about bus cleaning. I just couldn't hear.
We
But
can
we can all talk about bus cleaning. During, when COVID came to be, the buses were required to be cleaned, and that was an additional charge to us. Every bus has to be cleaned every day with special materials. That was an added regulation when COVID began. We anticipate that continuing on for the next 2 years. It could be forever. You know, we have a new level of understanding about cleaning and disinfecting, and so that's an additional charge we have for every bus.
Contract.
No, it was not included in the contract, and it could end. But the additional cost isn't.
Right, even it's broken out.
Yeah. Right. So it's not included in our base contract.
Next slide, you ready?
Indicate if they have any more questions on this slide.
What is coding and computer science, Shea and Tolman, courses 8 at $2,400, materials 4 at $13,000?
So that's an additional program that we began this year. Can I say the name of it? Yeah. It's referred to, the program itself is Project Lead the Way. It's a very exciting program for our students, develops 21st century skills. It's been extremely popular in the state and in the nation. It's considered part of our CTE path for students in coding and technology as well as engineering. It's also a very hands-on learning component to our curriculum.
So, in regards to like art, animation, citywide school, band, are these all programs that we have teachers for, or are these people you're going to have to hire to teach these type things or be in charge of these things?
So the city, as you see, the citywide middle school band, and it goes on, just other citywide programs are not initiatives that we are currently running, but the funding, if you look, the funding includes how we would pay those teachers. So if we have a citywide band program, then it is the hopes and expectation that some of our citywide teachers in various schools would want to be doing a citywide band program, and it would be like that for each of those areas. One of the priority areas additionally, and it's because of the arts and the impact on positive mental health, is that RIDE and this grant does have, is a focus on expanding programs for the arts.
So let me ask another question. If you know, the $60,000 there, say you don't get the interest to really bring up a band, what happens to that $60,000?
That's a really good question. So what happens when this grant is submitted and it's reviewed by RIDE? I believe RIDE has until the end of March to actually get back to districts as to whether or not parts of their plan are approved or whatever. And once it goes to this committee and RIDE and we have our approval and we're moving forward with whatever it is, there could always be changes because that happens all the time with grants. So you always have amendment periods with grants. So if you're unable to get the interest in building a citywide band, then you'd have to have an amendment and use those funds. You don't want to lose the funds, but use those funds in another manner, trying to keep the percentages. Also, like I said before, there's certain percentages that have to fall into certain buckets.
And as I said to the committee, I believe a few months ago when I first brought this up and I said that, we were going to be going through this, I said that one of the things that I think we should do that I'm seeing a few other committees think about doing is essentially doing a budget transfer process for Essa, in that Ms. Devine would, you know, similarly, we essentially have another budget we're running for a couple years. It's that big. I mean, we have other grants as well, but that we would be looking at that ESSER funds and we would be seeing budget transfers come across that, and we would have to approve them in a similar fashion as we approve our current budget transfers. And I believe I talked to legal, and that is a legal approach that we can take as a committee. Ms. Devine?
If I may add, but we would just need to discuss that a little bit further because while the committee, yes, we need the approval, but we have to, once you approve it, we also have to go get RIDE approval, and they will, you know, they do it in a big, so what we would do is we would monitor what we're doing. And when we see that, you know, maybe there is no interest in the middle school band, we wouldn't just do it every single meeting when we come to, we would need to do it in a group because they take all amendments at the same time. And so they would not just look at it to say we wanted to move $60,000. They want to, so yes, we certainly absolutely would bring budget transfers, but we would do it in a large group, I think. I just wanted to explain it's a little bit different than.
Okay.
Page 11. Okay, so we're going to continue on expanded learning, and we have high quality programmatic, I'm sorry, I already did that one. High quality programmatic resources. We did this one. So I want to go to the next page. Okay. I could go to the next page.
So that category took 3 slides.
Hold on, I'm not seeing.
I'm not sure.
Expanded. We're still.
Well, I'm not sure if it's there. So,
Go to the next one.
how many additional
okay, we're just
teachers
showing.
are we putting into our classrooms to support the students that are there?
You mean in this particular
Aside
plan?
from additional programs, how many teachers are we putting into our classrooms to assist what is already there?
So just to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, you're asking if if in this grant, we're adding staff to support that. So in this grant, we do have, I don't know, Sarah, if you know exactly where it is.
Go back. On the first slide that Mrs. Ramsey explained, one of the criteria items there was additional staff to mitigate learning loss at the amount of $3 million. And the focus on that are our high school educators for the priority 1-star schools.
So, and I will further explain that because in order to mitigate learning loss at the high school, we did give them a change in schedule and we added more staff, and we added that staff in a previous ESSER allotment. It's not in the regular budget. And so this now would be able to carry that on. So that we would still just be able to.
In our elementary schools, because if they're not educated in elementary, you keep losing it along the way.
Right.
So what about additional support to the elementary schools?
Right. And that is one of the things that is really, I just want to say a caution to, because the more staff you add in a grant in 2 years that's not going to be here, that's a significant impact on the local budget or a huge layoff. So we're very, very cautious, and the guidance, as you read through all the guidance documents, you want to be very cautious of not using millions of dollars on staff that you know you can't sustain in 2 years. And again, you'd be looking at significant layoffs.
But if students in elementary can't read because they've been on distance learning and haven't had the support that they needed, in addition to the additional math people that we put in there, what are we doing for them?
So we have our title grant. We have title grant, and we have that previous bucket of ESSA going back a year and a half ago that is housing much of our learning loss, what we call reading specialists. Sarah, I don't know if you want to speak to that. In our title grant, we have reading specialists and math interventionists.
You're absolutely right, Superintendent. We do have an allotment in our ESSER 2, which continues our reading and math intervention positions, and ESSER 3 would also carry some of that over. That $3 million projection on the first slide included mostly high school positions, but it did also include those specialists.
So so in other words, we have additional math and reading specialists that we hired this year that will be carried over into this, in addition to the high school positions.
Okay, because it's not.
But
broken
again,
out that way.
again, it's, like I said, as we move forward in this, and the committee makes recommendations to make changes, and I would just want to state that we have to just be cautious, because going back to what Mrs. Grant just said, what if you don't get the teachers to teach, that want to work all day and then teach an after-school band program? You don't want to put millions of dollars for staffing that are, number one, going to be gone in 2 years. Number two, it's going to have a huge impact on laying off hundreds. And number three, you might not get those teachers, so you've got to allot all that money, and now we can't do anything with it until we have an amendment that opens up. So it's a very challenging, I think, when you're talking about this scope of work, it is extremely challenging to, look at all the responsibilities that you have to do. But certainly, like I said, you'll get this, and you can review it. We'll have another meeting. We can do a workshop style. Ultimately, these are recommendations, and we'll move forward in the way in which the committee wants to go.
And I do think that questions now are helpful, but I know that for me, I'm between looking at 2 screens and seeing it for the first time, it's hard for me to even process kind of all of the information and to even know the questions to ask. So I think, and also I think since we're seeing it slide after slide, it's hard to kind of compare amounts of money. So I know for me, I'm going to kind of just absorb what you're giving me here, and then hopefully look at it in more detail so I can have additional questions. Ms. Grant.
I know you probably said this, but when does the completed draft have to be?
So the grant has to be submitted to RIDE in Excel grants. I believe it's Friday, the January 26th. Is that correct? Friday, January 26th.
The day after our work
So
session.
like 2 weeks, in 2 weeks. And then they review it. And then how long did they say it would take them to approve it?
So they told districts that they have from, January, when everybody submits theirs, maybe some have already submitted, I don't know, but, we have a big portion in the state, to budget. So maybe smaller districts, if they only had a small amount, they could have already submitted theirs, because it's been open since they gave us the guidance right before the holidays, or I think it may be opened right before Christmas. So what happens is that, they said once they're submitted, they'll have a process. And usually the way it works, and CFO Melissa, you can jump in, usually it's how you submit it. So if we submit ours like at 5 o'clock on January 26th, and 30-something other districts submitted it a day or two, whatever, they kind of go in order of how you submitted it. But they've given themselves a deadline, supposedly, of March 31st to have all our approvals, all districts' approvals of these. So you really technically wouldn't be moving into using these funds until you had the approvals.
Okay.
I answered that right, Melissa?
You did.
Okay, so I'm just going to continue. Our next area is student transition. Again, here are some of our draft recommendations. Academic transition support, integrated tiered systems of support, which is RTI A and B. Partnerships for ed, transitions from grade to grade, social service expansion, mental health, expansion of our pre-K transition to K, transitions from 5th to 6th, and post-secondary transitions, which is high school to higher education, as well as pathways development for college and career readiness. And the next bucket I'm going to talk about is the digital divide. And here are the draft recommendations. The categories are technological equity across campuses, which is across schools. RIDE tends to use both. technology for digital literacy program, broadband, areas of improvement for remote distance learning infrastructures, and policies, programs, and tools for virtual instruction days, particularly during inclement weather. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sarah.
To say one more thing. So I know it's really difficult to follow, and it's been, fortunately, we have a lot of input and a lot of support and a very good team that is able to digest all this. But what you have to remember is the biggest umbrella is strategic plan, those 4 priorities, and then LEAP initiatives. Then you get underneath that and you start looking at the grant, and you have all these other categories that now become another umbrella. And then when you come down, so what you're seeing are some lines out of the very, very close detail. So when someone, like when Mrs. Rabbit was just reading the general umbrella of the category, you're probably trying to say, well, how does that align? Well, that's our job to align using evidence-based research and everything that we have to do, because we have to write a whole narrative to whatever is decided. We have to align it to research, evidence-based, and write a whole narrative. So I think that's one of the things that people don't understand oftentimes about grants is you have these big pictures, then the big umbrellas, and then you have these other little umbrellas, and then you have these other buckets that everything has to fit in. Then you have to get down to the detail. And this actually still is not the final detail because you have to break it down into state UCOA code. So even some of that will break down even smaller and smaller. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the next category is universal screening. And you can see that we're looking at social emotional learning screening as well as mental health supports. This includes work that our district does with the GAD-7, the PHQ-9, and suicidality. Expansion of work with mental health sector partners, supports in professional learning for social emotional learning, cultural responsiveness, as well as anti-racism professional development that promotes stronger district culture. And finally, integrated tiered systems of support that support interventions for social emotional learning.
This is Melissa next. So before she goes, so this is actually the biggest bucket. If I'm correct, Melissa, this bucket is about 20 million.
Yes.
Pretty close to 20 million. So we have, like I said, we have 31.6 in the amount that we can budget. We get to budget an additional 4 because we're participating in the district support program. But out of that 31.6, 20 million of it is allotted for recommendations for other infrastructure or administrative. And Melissa,
So
you can share that now.
It's actually greater than the 20 million. What the 20 million represents is the health and safety and repairs and, for proper airflow in the classrooms, the HVAC systems, ADA enhanced bathrooms. So as you can see, the very first box, it's windows. These prices were done, even though we didn't get this grant and was able to access it, we had known these buckets were coming. I mean, these allotments were released a year and a half ago. It took a little while for them to, first we had the CRF, then we had ESSER 1, then we had ESSER 2, and now ESSER 3. So back in July, Colliers had worked with John Coney, Chris Silver, Cheryl, the assistant superintendents, and they actually put together some estimates for us to look at various schools that would need replacement windows or HVAC system. And that's in the first 2 buckets there. So that number right there is about 15 to 16 million. And then if you go down a little bit further, you'll see that there's ADA enhanced bathroom projects. We most recently had Colliers and John and his team, along with the superintendents, walk through a number of buildings so that an estimate could be projected for such renovations for the bathrooms. In addition, in this area, the bucket considered other, we also have a PD monitoring system. This monitoring system is for tracking professional development that relates to some of what Sarah had said previously about aligning and adhering to the standards. And if you look down a little further, you'll see that there is security cameras, wireless door locks, an indirect cost. An indirect cost is just a line that allows for charges to various different staff that can work on the grant that you're allowed to. It doesn't have to be there, but it is usually part of most large grants. So that way, if you have staff working or other different things that are needed, they call them indirect costs. And there's a certain percentage. This is a very low number, but it does not, if the committee chooses, it doesn't have to be there. Student information system, that's just an estimate. It's probably an estimate that's probably on the high side, but again, without going out to bid and all the different modules and implementation integration, that's the best number that was able to be assigned to it. And then you have telelanguage services for the district. This again too is an estimate that's related to supporting the various buildings and staff with a third-party service. I'm trying to think about Convolve, that's a communication tool. We've been using that, and I believe that the tech department has funded that mainly through our Essa and CRF funds for the last couple of years.
Okay. So something like the telelanguage service for the district. So say over the next couple of years, we figure, wow, this is great. This is something we need, something past due. I don't know what particular service. I've seen certain ones, like at the hospitals, a person walks there on a screen or whatever, and you have a computer with you. Are you also thinking at this time how we could fit this into our regular budget after this, after these funds run out?
Yeah, so that's a really good point too, because that's why what you want to do is do the things that are kind of almost one and done, right?
Mhm.
But the whole point of this grant is to mitigate learning loss and use funds to mitigate things that you couldn't normally mitigate. And the understanding or the expectation is at the end of the grant, you've either mitigated the learning loss or you've dealt with the pandemic. However, you bring up a good point, because we both know that oftentimes you get used to a particular strategy or something that you're doing and it's working. And then you pull it out and I know there's teachers here, they could say that all the time, something's going, it's working, but then you don't have the funds to continue it. So in an answer to that question, what we would be working on once we know how we're spending the money and moving forward and what's been approved is how then we move forward to those things that are very, very important to the district, which is why you have a strategic plan, and which is why there has to be ongoing communication of the things that are important to the district, is what's important to try to get into the local budget.
Okay.
I know that was a long answer, but I think it's important to explain.
Because we do know, and I think we had a discussion not that long ago, when we had a presentation, how important it is for our bilingual families when they come for into our school buildings for teacher parent night and different things like that. So, it just seems like it's something that would be something that would stay on our budget. But at almost $100,000, I just want to make sure that, we are thinking about, where we're going to put this after how many years.
Right. And I do want to note that these funds go till, am I correct, Melissa, July 1st, 2024, or is it September 30th, 2024? Somewhere?
They end in, so Essa 2 ends in 2023, so June 30, 2023. Essa 3 ends in 2024.
And Ms. Devine, I know that just about every district across the state is kind of tackling this the same way. And I'm concerned, I'm glad that we have ambitious projects like windows and roofs and HVAC systems. But as far as I know, just about every district is thinking the exact same thing. And this is a federal deadline. This isn't a state deadline saying that we need to have this completed by 2024, or we need to have it bid out. What is the what we have to have done in order to say we secure these funds? Because if we have 39 districts all trying to do windows at the exact same time, I just worry.
So with the rule of thumb is substantially complete. So we have to be pretty much complete.
We have to be working on it. We can't
We
just
have
have
to be
this
working
bid.
in substantially complete, which substantially complete can run anywhere from 85 to 90%, and probably have maybe just some punch list items. But yeah, we're going to be competing with other districts, which is why, you know, the timeline is close. It seems like a rushed event, but it truly isn't. I mean, we just finished today putting some of the last items in. If we just, you know, as long as it gets approved when they say, I mean, you think if they wait until March, we have to be right out the door rolling.
Okay, thank you. Is that the end of it?
Yeah, I think that's it for my section, right? Yep, Cheryl.
So the next steps would be, and it sounds like we're going to have a workshop, Chair, is that correct? So we're looking at a workshop. But for us, the next steps is it's really important for us to know very soon, because like I said, everything that we do now, we have to write a narrative to. So we have to write a narrative, and we have to find evidence-based research to support everything, and it has to fall into those certain buckets. So that's our next steps, and then submit it to RIDE at the last Friday of the month of January, unless by some strange reason they extend the deadline, but then that also extends and that's the other thing too. You know, you say that this is a 3-year grant, but it really isn't, because we're spending almost 3/4 of the year to try to get the funds, get the application, get it allocated, get it approved, and then out the door with the projects.
Right now.
So I'm just curious as to excuse me. So I was just curious if we explored the purchasing of improvements of equipment to improve our special needs population, as it was brought up a few weeks ago, and if any of these funds could be allocated in that way in terms of health and safety. So I'm in the classroom a few weeks ago, it was brought up that you wanted to see an allocation miss.
We are going to go on in a little bit, and we're going to talk about some of that. But so one of the things to note is in this, as you look into the detail, you'll see when it says digital divide, it could be iPads and things like that for the special needs students. A big portion of this, as we saw, was the ADA compliant, we already have ADA bathrooms in the buildings that have specialized populations. However, there's an enhanced ADA that we'll talk about a little bit later, and that is in here. So it's really a question of what items we want in here, and I know we're going to have a further discussion about district-wide improvements, what we have capital, what we want in capital. The funds are there. It's just for us now as a committee is where do you want to use these funds? So there are, as in a little bit later when we talk about the next couple of items, we have some ideas of improvements for the special needs populations. And I believe that this committee, as I'll state in the next presentation, said that they wanted to invest a certain amount of dollars. So, and I believe in that conversation was make a decision of where those dollars are going to go. So what bucket they're going to come from? Are they going to come from, Essa, or are they going to come from capital? So again, things can shift around when you see the other things. Some of those items, if they fit into the buckets in Essa, they can go there, but then some of maybe the ADA comes out, or the enhanced things, and that goes into capital. There's these decisions that we'll be looking for the committee to make as to where you want the funds to come. But beyond anything, please know that the funds are there. It's just a question of where you want them to come out of. So I hope that answers your question. As we go on, we're going to talk about, future presentations, and you'll see that we've got a little bit of that covered.
Ms. Grant?
So let me ask you a question in regards to the budget that's been presented. So if we as a committee think maybe we could add something to it, or we think something maybe we might not want in it on a whole or whatever, we're not doing that tonight, correct? We're having a workshop. And I believe
that's. I'm going to have Ms. Liss poll us for a workshop at some point next week.
Okay.
And I think it would be the committee's decision if at that workshop it then is voted forward, as in we can say at that workshop we're good to go, or if at that workshop we say this is going to be on the work session, there's still so I think that would have to be, I think I would plan to put it on as a discussion action item, but it might just end up being a discussion next week if the committee feels like there's not enough to go on. Okay?
Okay.
Does any committee member want to object to that general idea? Okay. So that's the plan.
So we should just kind of make a list, and then we'll bring those to those notes
I would
and
say.
things like that. Okay.
Ms. Manoa?
So when you submit this information to us, you indicated that there was an umbrella and then there's sub-umbrellas which are not shown in the presentation.
So at the beginning, when I was sharing the priorities, so the priority areas of the district strategic plan, and then the LEAP initiatives, so those are the alignments. And then as you get into the writing of the grant and your percentages of like the 20% that has to be on mitigating learning loss, and 1% on a particular, area. So what you're seeing is right down to the detail. Originally, we had thought of just giving you a broad overview, but I think that would have been really difficult to follow with an initial meeting, not knowing really what are the items that we're really talking about, or the materials that we're really talking about, or the programs that we're really talking about. Does that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Is there any further discussion on this item? Dr. McWilliams, I thank you and your team because I do know that this was a tight turnaround, and I think we all look forward to having more time to digest and discuss this. I know everyone's excited about having a meeting next week. So the next item on the agenda is Homeschool Student Program 2021 to 2022 update.
Yes, so as we said in September when we brought forward the homeschool list at that time, we said that we might have some additional families joining into homeschool. So I have before you the recommendation for approval for this additional list. It should be on your back page. It's 15 students.
Second.
Is that a motion to approve the additional students, the additional 15 students by Mr. Charbonneau, is seconded by Ms. Grant. Any discussion? Ms. Grant.
So Dr. McWilliams, these parents, when they request that their child be homeschooled, they submit a package to you with the curriculum that they're going to be teaching them?
Yeah, so we have a standard document that we send out to them, and then they send back to us the program that they're going to be following. And usually, most all of them actually indicate the Rhode Island law and all the requirements. And then it comes here, and then at the end of the year, they submit to us their attendance and their grades.
Okay, and then the student, it says BVP Tolman. Does that just mean Tolman's the homeschool, but they were attending
Yes.
Stone Valley Prep and decided to do?
Yeah,
homeschool?
so we have seen that. So you saw, we had a family that moved up from Florida. They were already homeschoolers, but when they moved up, they continued their homeschooling, and they're in the Gulf District. So,
Okay.
and I will note, since this, we did have, so if you have the 142 that we had in September, these additional 15, but we did have 2 that came back into our schools. So our total homeschooling right now is 154. 2 came back in off of homeschooling, and 1 went to a private school.
And a motion, it's been seconded. No further discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Yep. The next item is update health and safety upgrades to special needs space at Tolman High School. As Dr. Andre?
Dr. Andre and I are going to go through it. So at the last meeting, as was just as previously referred to, there was a request to review the particular special ed space and programs for the specialized populations at Tolman, and to provide a timeline and some indication of improvements. And I believe that the committee did vote for $100,000 to move forward on. I believe I read the minutes, so that was voted on for $100,000, but there could be more.
We tabled it for.
No, you tabled the million.
Oh, okay, to get
Yep.
An update. Okay.
Yes. So, I mean, this, we're just in the beginning stages of it, but like I said in the previous presentation, a good portion of what could be spent would be upgrading the ADA enhanced bathroom. It could go either way into whatever fund. So, Dr. Andrade, can you take us through, what we've done since that last meeting?
I sure can. Thank you very much. So the following morning of December, so I thought it would be appropriate just to do a visual. I know that we've had a long meeting, so I want to try to go through this and try to make it as efficient as possible. So what we did was on December 15th, immediately myself, facilities, and met with Principal Savastano, and we immediately addressed some of the concerns that were noted. And we did a tour, and we had a conversation with several of the members on the team, did some visuals, etc. Let me just drill down really quick, sorry. And so through our campus visit, we talked to several different educators. We talked to the therapist. We did some visual inspections ourselves. The next step, we met with the therapist the following day on December 16th. Sorry, So this was led by myself, and I met with the therapist, which consisted of the physical therapist and the occupational therapist. And at that time, we just had a basic conversation about what the expected standards, I should say, what their standards of service were. And the concern was really, I should say, the discussion really involved identifying the appropriate equipment that they felt were best needed for their students, just to provide better for them to provide the best standard of service that we could to our kiddos. So on December 21st, we had Beacon Mutual Safety, which is Beacon Mutual Insurance Company. And then we had one of their loss prevention consultants come out and do a safety assessment of the classroom. And that was followed with Principal Savastano. And at which point they looked at the equipment, including the high-low platform tables, So on December 27th, we met, this was after the holiday break, we met with Colliers and Torado and the administration, superintendent's office, assistants, and Principal Savastano and facilities. and we looked at potential options to add or potentially enhance the current ADA compliant bathroom. And in that conversation, there were multiple options and proposals, and it was a large scope and sequence process. And they determined that, yes, it can happen in Tolman, and they identified a space and a location to add a ADA enhanced bathroom. And when we use the word enhanced bathroom with respect to ADA compliant, yes, our bathrooms are ADA compliant. The renovation took place a couple of years ago, but it didn't necessarily emulate what we have here at Jenks. And when we say enhanced, what would that include? One unisex bathroom, handicap accessible, that would include a Hoyer lift mounted to the wall and an adjustable platform changing table, which would be powered as well. So we move over to January 5th. January 5th, we had an additional member from the Beacon Mutual Insurance Company, the ergonomics specialist, who met with myself, some members of my team, including the physical therapist. The physical therapists are the persons who in our district train the individuals who work with those kiddos one-to-one to make sure that we are meeting the gold standard as far as the safety and healthcare of transporting a student and handling a student with we would say student care. And the specialist from Beacon Mutual reviewed our procedures, our training, and our processes, the times that we do it. And we had a long conversation, and we're happy to announce that so far what we're doing is the right protocol. And then we went back to furniture upgrades. This was the best part of this particular timeline, where we had an opportunity to, sorry, hold on, wrong button, furniture upgrades. Sorry, January 6th, I met with the classroom teachers, 3 specialized classrooms at Tolman, and they were able to identify appropriate furniture that they felt would be needed in their classrooms to, again, provide the best service that we can as educators. And we identified, I believe, I don't have the specific numbers, but I can share them later, but approximately 20 individual tables. We have 1 horseshoe table for each classroom, about 40 chairs, and then we have these oblong shake classroom tables, the activity tables, which we can actually join and connect and utilize some really creative workspace areas for our kiddos. And then lastly, we had our lift. Oh, there it goes again. Sorry about that. We had our inspections from one of our local vendors. It was scheduled for last Friday, but unfortunately for the snowstorm, it was rescheduled to January 19th. We have 6 mounted Hoyer lifts, which you see right here in our buildings. And all 6 of those will be inspected. And when part of that inspection process is when they reviewed the actuators, the electronics, the components, et cetera, to make sure it's all up to par. And if there is any need for a repair, then we would certainly move forward with doing that. In addition to that, we purchased 2 high-low powered therapeutic tables. And then we also purchased 2 Hoyer hydraulic lifts as well. And so that's where we're at as far as the agenda on Tolman.
Ms. Grant. Did we put the doors on the supply closets?
Yes.
In the classrooms?
Yes.
And one of these Hoyer lifts and beds is going to go in the therapy room at Tolman?
Correct.
That doesn't have one right now.
You'll have 2. This is just Tolman now, so, right, these.
Oh, there'll be 2. Oh, okay.
Yep, so there's
one will go in
one
the
in our special.
classroom.
So one will go in our specialized classroom.
Okay.
And the additional one will go into the OTPT room.
Okay.
Now, the enhanced ADA compliant bathroom,
yes,
that was embedded in that particular plan.
Okay.
So that, I would prefer Colliers or Toronto, Holly could come up and speak to that specific cost.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. I assume that was probably figured into the cost. So in the classroom in Tolman right now, what do they have for a changing bed? Was the bed brought down from the nurse's office?
And I know that was a discussion. So right now, currently in the classroom, they have their Hoyer lift, they have their privacy curtain, and they have that table that is what do they call it?
It's a fixed
It's called a
therapeutic
fixed
table.
therapeutic table. And it's something that they've been using for quite a long time, which is why you need that lift to, like you said, with the bending and all, and the high-low is a better solution. The one that is currently in the building is for a specific student, assigned to that student, and it's not even the right, if you look, go back to that picture of those high-low tables, because we did measurements, it's not, wouldn't be appropriate for this space because it's really narrow, and that particular student is, it was purchased specifically through, I believe, the fund source, where I'm not, where it's still trying to figure out where it came from, the family or whatever, but it was specifically measured for that particular student because the issue isn't the same as what the way it's done in the other classroom. It's not used for changing, it's used for another type of need that that student has. So we wouldn't want to move it down. We did think about it, but it would be taking something from a student, and that student wouldn't be going to the therapy room or to the classroom to do what he needs to do. So that wouldn't be appropriate. And it's the width isn't the, but that's how we found out the correct width to get the high-low tables. But you know, and so it's not the right measurement. Yeah, it's not the right measurement.
No, go ahead,
Dr.
please.
Andrew, how much of the 100,000 that we allocated have you spent thus far? You can ballpark it, Mark.
Oh, I'm gonna go with about $25,000.
All right, thank you.
We haven't gotten to you have another slide though. You have the materials?
No. No, so part of the scope and sequence of this particular presentation was to address,
Oh, that's true.
right, the safety and health. So
Right.
the question was previous to this conversation, Mr. Charbonneau, was when we talk about equipment and supplies, there's a bucket for that one, and we have to attach that particular bucket to another funding source. This source here was focused, this presentation was focused on the enhancement of the ADA bathrooms and also the safety and health equipment embedded in the classrooms. In addition to that, we can include furniture, right? We can include some of these, the hydraulic lifts. We could probably include, and Melissa can help me, trikes, some other adaptive equipment that our kiddos need. But then when we drill it down to looking at what is it that classroom teachers use every day in the classroom, their materials, their supplies, that is a different conversation. And I would love to entertain that conversation, but no, there would not be enough money close to address the materials and supplies.
Right, with the 100,000.
Correct.
Correct.
Right, let's spend 100,000 before we start talking about not having enough money.
Right.
We've spent 25,000 of it. Okay, I'm good.
Yes, but, and then I just want, the cost of the estimate for that particular bathroom is $357,000.
Yes, so that, like I said, that will be a decision because the ADA enhanced bathroom is 300, and I believe the quote that we got was 357.5. We have 100,000, we still have 80,000 left or 75,000 left. So it's what bucket, where does it come? And I think that's something that, you know, we would be looking, like I said, for the committee to decide, does it come out of capital? Do we leave it in the Essa 3? If you take it out of the Essa 3, then you can do other things with the Essa 3.
So just a quick question. So we just saw all of this. What I don't see on the roadmap is when would be a good time that a committee member or several committee members who would want to see this space with these enhancements, with these additions in it, what would be a timetable, a realistic timetable of when that tour or visit could happen?
There's a significant lead time on a lot of the larger equipment. Right now, I believe it's 4 to 7 weeks on 2 of the devices. The Hoya portable lifts, I believe, are coming in next week. There are additional supplies and equipment that we'd like to order as well. The furniture we're investigating right now, because there's a process to purchase, and we were able to find a provider that's on the MPA, and that order should probably be going in tomorrow.
Okay. Ms. Grant.
So if we keep the ADA bathrooms in the Essa, then do you have plans for the 80,000 already, or could those be used for the needs, the supplies, the items that the therapists need to provide to the students that would help enhance their therapies, or would you need more than that?
it would not be enough to meet the 357,000 projected cost for the ADA enhanced
What she's
bathroom.
saying is if we keep the 357.5 in Essa, you have $80,000 left. Will that
Absolutely.
cover the furniture and the slide? I'm pretty
It would-
sure
it
it
would-
does. 'Cause I-
Yep, it would be
yeah.
the furniture, the supplies, and the materials and equipment, absolutely.
Yes.
And that would cover it.
For Tolman.
Oh,
Because
just.
we're only talking about Tolman.
We're,
right now.
oh, all right,
Right.
because we're only talking about Tolman.
Yes.
Any further questions on this from the committee?
Okay.
Ms. Grant.
Did ask, didn't,
That's a future item on the agenda.
oh,
Yep,
okay.
in new
All
business,
right, so
yes.
that's a,
Mhm.
okay, all right, okay, all right.
This
no,
is just an
perfect.
update on Tolman currently.
Okay,
Okay?
perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is update on Potter Burns envelope repair.
Okay, I'm going to ask Gerardo and Colliers to come up.
And walk us through that.
Good evening. My name is Louis Torado. I'm president of Torado Architects. Our firm has worked on the investigations for Potter Burns in 2018 and have recently worked. Our consulting scientist is business and closure scientist, and they are with us this evening to make a presentation. I know how lengthy your night is, so we're going to try to make it brief, but can expand it based on your questions. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Hello. My name is Craig Andrade. I'm with Building Enclosure Science. We are helping Louis Torado with the investigation and the repair design related to water intrusion at the Potter Burns School. So we wanted to give everyone an update. So we visited the school the week before Christmas, and during Christmas break started our investigation. We did some water testing. We've uncovered about 3 to 4 conditions that need to be addressed. In that process, we did come across a safety concern item, and that's what we kind of want to focus on now. As far as the repair design goes for everything, we're on schedule. We'll have a set of schematic drawings and specifications ready by the 17th of January, and then we'll keep progressing from there. So we did want to focus on, like I said, there's a bit of a safety condition at the second floor lintels. I have some photos and things here. I think will best explain it. So the original design, I'll try to go quick, I'm sorry. The original design includes a set of metal angles that are welded to a steel C-channel. The C-channel is embedded in the masonry that's actually supporting a lot of the masonry above the window heads. But the C-channels have this kind of green L angle you can see here, welded, attached, not welded, attached to the C-channel, and another L angle attached to that. It basically forms a J. So because these lintels, these conditions have been taking on water for an extended period of time, they've corroded out pretty significantly on the second level and as well on the first level, but not nearly as significant. So like I said, we have a bit of a safety concern where because the steel has since corroded, the stone is not pinned back in any fashion. Like just for instance, traditionally now, if this was installed new, we'd have some pins. Yes, so yeah, we'll get into photos, but this is, Louis wanted me to clarify where this occurs. This occurs above the second floor windows. So there's actually 2 stones, I'm sorry. It doesn't show up. There's actually 2 stones above, but primarily this first stone, again, it's not attached. It's no longer well supported because the steel is corroded out. So it's rocking outward. What's a little scary is the only thing holding it in place is friction at the moment. So I do have I wouldn't say comprehensive, we do have a summary report we'll issue to everyone after to kind of try to digest this. So this is our condition with one stone removed. You can see this is the adjacent stone and how it's rocking outward. The steel on the bottom, you can see it should have had an upward facing L angle. It's supposed to go into this kerf where my cursor is. I don't know if everyone can see that. That has since corroded out. Again, there's no pin. Typically, this would be pinned back. There's no pinning holding it back. It wasn't a great design, even initially. This should have been supported. You can see the angle only comes out really about half width of the stone. If this was, again, if it was new construction, it'd be 2/3 bearing on that angle. It was only half to begin with. So now that we've lost it and there's no pin back, the stone is rocking outward.
That's supposed to be vertical, that stone.
So it's a pretty significant, concern. It's a safety issue. Again, this is just another image to try to get through these pretty quick. You can see that there's an accent band above these second floor windows. It's not on the first floor. It's no accent band. We do have similar stones on the first floor. But on the second floor where it's worse, and what we're talking about now is there's an accent band above. The accent band is also displaced. It's not nearly as loose as these lintels are, but it's something that needs to be addressed and part of our repair. This occurs on all elevations. What we looked at originally, these are on the south side of the building, but it also occurs in the north. We didn't actually take the north apart, but when you look up at the north, you can see they're also kind of similarly displaced. So it's a typical condition on the addition portion of the building. And so where we're at now, I think as an immediate need, everyone's going to wonder next steps, is overhead protection. We do have concerns with the stones being so loose. So we're suggesting until we get repairs or a repair plan implemented and a contractor on board and a schedule and all that stuff, the immediate action should be some temporary overhead protection, some scaffolding, and limiting the use of the doors on the north and south. There are 4 doors, 2 on each elevation. I don't know if they're shown here. There's 2 on each elevation that are frequently used. There's these 2, and there's 2 kind of at these roofs. We should probably limit that use. I think they can still be available for egress, emergency egress, but we wouldn't want to. I don't think we should be funneling kids in and out of these doors. When we were there, they were coming in and out for recess and things. So that's the immediate action item. Next steps after that, of course, is getting our repair design firmed up, getting a contractor.
For my child to come out, and there are parents there who have kids who are, are kind of like, wandering around. And should we be blocking off that area so no one's kind of standing underneath it, or,
Yes, we put together a proposal that we issued to Toronto to provide scaffolding across the entire north and south elevation to protect from fall hazards.
Okay, I haven't been there to pick up the past couple of days, but
the diagram that you're looking at now is a kind of a really quick plan of where we're proposing scaffolding.
but there's not scaffolding now.
No.
Okay. So, okay. Because currently the kids are not coming out those doors anymore or going in them.
That's likely. We did have a communication 27th,
Okay.
and it expressed our concerns, and I assume immediately thereafter they stopped using.
No, I did get an immediate yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Charbonneau.
Do we have this proposal for the scaffolding? Can I make a motion that we approve it? I mean, we probably should have had this up last week. And I would also ask that how do we secure the bottom so that in off hours, we don't have kids from the neighborhood playing on it like it's a,
Right. So the way we had the scaffolding contractor develop the proposal was with netting that would block, and the kids in the, playing in the parking lot from climbing on it. So it'll be fully netted.
Okay, perfect.
And it's a single story scaffolding. It's not the full height of the building.
Okay. Are we looking at a motion to approve? I don't know what the proposal is, so I'm not gonna make a motion without knowing how much is it?
Holly?
So this stuff is under Lewis's contract, Toronto's contract. We received the proposal and it's $77,000 between now and June because it's a $4,000 a month fee plus install and all. So it would typically go under Toronto's contract since he has the design contract. And then
So
we
then
don't
that-
need a separate motion.
Right.
So we don't need a motion, then it begs, why isn't it up already then?
Well, I don't think, so the scaffolding wouldn't be part of.
No, they wouldn't be doing it.
No.
Wait a minute. It's either part of Toronto's contract or it's not part of Toronto's contract.
In addition, it would be in addition.
But that's what we're saying. So your contract to coordinate it and design it and oversee it.
And really facilitate it and
Right. And then the general contract, someone actually has to be hired to actually put it out.
So this item should have been to amend a contract, or this item doesn't give us any leeway to vote on anything, does it?
Dr. Williams.
So when this went down and I sent the communication to the committee, it was my understanding, because this is an emergency situation, this is the way I see it, as an emergency situation. So in an emergency situation, I don't think we had time for a vote. I think it is emergency situation, get that scaffolding up. I immediately called the principal, had her disperse the doors, and I've been riding by every day too to see if it's up. So under an emergency situation, we need to get that scaffolding up. That's what I'm saying.
Right, but Superintendent, I can appreciate that, but we knew about this on the 27th. It's now the 11th of
Right.
January. I mean, nobody's moving under emergency conditions, it doesn't appear to me. What do we need? Or maybe Attorney Connolly can help us.
So I think the question that Mr. Charbonneau has and that I have is, how do we get the scaffolding up on the building?
Okay. So
But we'll ask legal. Right now, do we make a motion? Is there something that's happening that we need to do?
So because of the emergency circumstances where the information you have before you is that there's an imminent threat to safety, you have the authority to authorize, and frankly, the superintendent would as well, and then bring it to you. But you have the authority tonight to authorize the contract for the scaffolding, get the scaffolding up immediately. It is also under an action item, although it doesn't specifically identify the scaffolding. You've clearly heard enough information that it's an immediate threat to safety, and therefore it can be acted on.
All right, so I'll make a motion that can we have this scaffolding up tomorrow?
We can let the contractor know that you were going to move forward, and we will get a schedule. Now, obviously, we started the investigation off school hours, right? That's why we did the week of between Christmas and New Year's. But I don't think you can wait for the next, and then they can't do it after hours because it can take too long to set up. What they suggested was a 2-day install. Walk off one side, get north side done first, or south, it doesn't matter. One day, and then they could get up in 2 days. And then the next day they'll do north or south.
Right, but they're not working on a 2 or 3 week lead time. When are they going to be on to put it up?
We'll get that information to Toronto, but we will let them know that this has been approved for emergency, set up.
But you see, before the end of the week.
You know what? I can't speak for them. We asked them to get numbers to provide to you guys so that you can make a decision. I have to go back to them and, I'll do that on the way home.
Okay.
Let them know that they need to act fast.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, it's second.
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve the authorization of $77,000 for scaffolding at Potter Burns.
Been a motion to approve scaffolding by Mr. Charbonneau. It's been seconded by Ms. Grant. Any discussion, Ms. Manolo, and then Ms. Grant?
So we still don't know when they're putting in the scaffolding. When Tolman had a sinkhole, we had equipment there that day. And it was authorized by the superintendent because it was the duty of the superintendent to keep our school safe. So they're telling us they don't know when the scaffolding will go up, whether it's a week, whether it's 2 weeks. Meanwhile, if one of those things falls, it's going to kill our kids or a parent. So what we need is an emergency situation of getting the scaffolding up. And it doesn't matter who your special contractor is. We need a contractor who is available this weekend to get that scaffolding up, period.
Understood. Okay. Ms. Grant?
I guess I'm, I kind of piggyback what Ms. Bonolo said, but how much stress can that take? We just had a snowstorm. So could, how much to maybe help push that down or?
Yeah, it's not that kind of, it's not, snow related or weather related per se. I mean, it's weather related that it's taken, 80 years to degrade to the point that, it needs some addressing now.
Right, but I'm talking about like, snow coming down and the rocks and the brick and all that coming down to hit people on the head.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Well, I can't say, we didn't understand the amount of damage that was done until we had a mason remove stone last or between Christmas and New Year's to discover what's going on. So, I couldn't say that, it's going to fall down tomorrow, but out of an abundance of caution, that's why we suggested, hey, maybe you limit those entrances and set up scaffolding.
Yeah,
So.
Me personally, I think this is a huge situation, and I'm very disappointed that, I don't know who or why this wasn't, the attention of it wasn't really kind of brought to us or taken care of prior to tonight. It's pretty disturbing.
I can say when we have the call on the 27th with the superintendent and facilities, we immediately addressed that, okay, when can we get the scaffolding up? It has to go up as soon as possible. And these gentlemen said the first thing to do is block the 2 entrances, which they've done, which the superintendent done immediately. In the meantime, we have been saying, you got to get the scaffolding up, and then we just saw the proposal. The proposal and the number, because it was under Toronto's contract, again, it was an emergency. We knew that it had to happen as soon as possible. So it wasn't like we were waiting. We literally got it through Toronto's office over the last day or so, and then we're meeting tonight. So I agree, 100%. It wasn't like we were looking for a specific contractor or anything like that. We have been chasing this since it happened to see how quickly it could be up.
But wasn't there anyone you could have gone to say, or share the immediate emergency and need for this?
It's not just, we actually needed the team that actually established what the problem was for location and all. It's not just calling someone. So we really needed their input as well as Toronto's to get to this point. Okay. So, based on what I've been told, we were waiting for.
Yeah, we acted immediately. It took time to get the estimate. It's going to take time to get the staging in place. I don't think we're talking about a 2 or 3 week lead time.
Right, but what I'm saying is there's nothing we could have put in place or blocked off the area to make sure no one went. It wasn't brought to someone's attention that we could have maybe, put boundaries up to keep people away from those areas.
I'm sorry, Ms. Grant?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to.
I guess I'm trying to figure out where the balls dropped. Who went to who and who should have said, hey, let's put some caution tape up and say, stay away from these areas. Like Ms. Doobie said, she's been out there and she's seen parents wandering around and this and that, having no idea that something could fall down. I'm not saying you guys, seriously, I know you guys are kind of, but I'm saying who, someone should take the blame for this.
Right.
This
So
is
I don't know,
seriously.
I don't know if it's a question of blame, but I think that when this issue came to me, I immediately said, this is a safety concern. Immediately within minutes, contacted the principal and immediately said, get scaffolding up. So then I actually emailed the school committee and actually, I believe, sent you pictures. So in an emergency situation, yes, that was sent out through facilities, through our OPM. And that was the expectation. Yeah, 2 weeks later. So, yeah, I think this will, number one, we need to understand that if it's an emergency situation, we're not even talking about millions of dollars, but in an emergency situation, it doesn't, you know, that comes first, because in an emergency situation, if it wasn't going to be done, then technically, maybe a decision would have been made to, are those students going to continue going there, or like you said, caution tape. I'm not sure caution tape would do much good, though. That wouldn't really resolve the
Right, but it
problem.
would at least bring attention to people.
Right.
You know, I would hope, you know, Roberto was brought in on the conversation. He's our facilities chair. You know, was he made aware of the situation? A
So this
call was
whole,
made
yeah,
and.
so like I said, I just went through the timeline of it. We were on a call, learned about it, emergency, contacted the principal, said get scaffolding up. John, I don't know if you want to weigh in about that, and then immediately notified the school committee. So, and now, you know, I've been riding by to see the scaffolding as well. Yeah.
Ms. Manola does have a question.
Well, it's not a question, but it's a comment. So should such a situation happen in the future, John and Superintendent, if it is the case of an emergency.
Emergency, yes.
We do not have to go to our OPM. We go to our facilities and we say, whatever it takes, get a scaffolding put up or some kind of security around an area to take care of the emergency situation. We don't wait 2 weeks for Toronto to give us his estimate and to figure things out. We get what we need to protect our students and our staff. We had a sinkhole. Can you imagine that sinkhole being there for 2 weeks and corroding? No, the next day, that day we had some equipment there, and the next day it was taken care of. We don't wait when it's an emergency situation. And I know everybody's trying to go through procedures, but emergency, if there's a fire, like there was at Kirby McCabe, you don't wait a day to call the fire department because you need a quote. You get it done. That's all I'm trying to say. And I'm very disappointed about this.
When we were told initially was in the 2 areas in which they took out the lintel, which was over door number 4. 4 is a small door that kids come out. It used to be a custodial door for trash, but I guess kids come out through that area too. We were told to shut that door down, and which at the time they ended up having their equipment there, so we didn't have to. Then we ended up putting saw horses around it because over those 2 areas, that's where they noticed the worst areas. Then at that point, they said we should get staging because over for the rest of the area, because no other areas in the condition the way these 2 areas were, but we need to just be safe. And then from there, that's when they got into the motion of telling the superintendent, and I guess I don't know who wanted to be at the time. Like for me, in small cases, if I have a problem, I use my own emergency procedure and I just fix it. I can't wait. But in a case like this, we have to go to the superintendent because of cost. And I was of the impression at the time the staging was necessary long term. It wasn't necessary immediately. Just over door 4 was the problem, which we barricaded off. We were also told principals that now you're only going to use 3 means of egress, just the 2 side doors and the main door. You can still use the other areas for emergency use and only for emergency use. So that's kind of where we are right now.
I have another question. Holly, at any time, did you or your people notify our facilities chair?
When we reached out to both John and the superintendent, she said that she would be reaching.
Yeah, I
She
did.
reached out to the
Committee.
school committee.
Right.
Did you at any time reach out to the facilities chair?
No.
He's the facilities chair. When Mr. Charbonneau was the facilities chair, in regards to winters, you should be working with Roberto. You guys should be working with our facilities. He would have, I would have hoped, he would have been a second to the superintendent. The purpose of us having a facilities committee and a facilities chair is so that hopefully he would have brought it. He wouldn't have had to have, he would have done an emergency. He would have hopefully looked into it or worked with you guys to move this forward. That's the purpose of the facilities committee. And that's the purpose of the facilities chair. You guys need to take advantage of that and use that, especially if you think as time's going on, this might be taking too long, something may need to be done. That's why these protocols are put in place. So going forward, you guys have to use that. If you don't feel comfortable or there's a problem with it, then you got to let the committee know. But that's why he's in this position. She should, in superintendent, with all due respect too, he should have been the first one to know. But him and Erin, before telling all of us, you should have submitted an idea to us, not, hey, look at this. Because God forbid if anyone got hurt. It's insane. It's crazy.
There's a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. I can hear the passion of this committee on this, and I'm sure that everyone here can hear it as well. Ms. Leslie, please take a roll call.
Ms. Badolo?
Yes.
Ms. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Charbonneau?
Yes.
Mr. Larby?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Marino?
Yes.
Ms. Doobie?
Yes. The motion carries 6-0. The next item is new business action, discussion items, recommendation of Unified High School Subcommittee to proceed with conceptual plans for Unified High School McCoy Stadium site. Mr. Charbonneau.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I come before the committee tonight to pass along the recommendation of the Unified High School Subcommittee, of which I chaired, that we proceed with the conceptual plans for a Unified High School at the McCoy Stadium site. We've heard over the last, as a Unified High School Committee, we met for 3.5, 4 months. And throughout that process, we've heard from the JMW community, much like we did this evening. I applaud their passion and their love for their school. We've all been in receipt of numerous emails regarding the JMW question. We are not here tonight, I don't believe, to answer that question or to stamp and proceed that we're going to flat out build a unified high school. This is to accept the recommendation of the subcommittee that we continue to explore the potential for a unified high school at the McCoy site. I think what's left for this committee to do is to in fact answer that JMW question. I also believe this committee previously has authorized the expenditure of $93,000 for site survey and some borings and soil tests. That work is ongoing, and we're probably still another 4 or 5 weeks out from the results of that analysis coming back to the committee. So I'm before you tonight to say that we had a robust subcommittee of all stakeholders, members from the mayor's office, the council, the school committee, teachers, parents, and members of the community. Everybody agrees that in concept, this is a good idea. This is something that requires further exploration. But as I said that night at our last Unified High School Committee, and as I will repeat tonight, I still do not know personally where I will vote on this issue when it comes before the full committee. In full transparency, as I said, we've had numerous conversations with the folks from JMW, and while 90% of them have been positive and passionate and coming from the right place, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the 10% of them that I think, and members of this committee have been on copy on some of these emails. When we start referring to the JMW students and then those other kids, you know, I have a real issue with that. And those other kids represent some of the best business minds in the state, some of the leaders in public service in the state. They also represent my kids. So when we talk about JMW and their passion for their school, it shouldn't come at the expense of Tolman and Shea students who are equally passionate about their school. So again, I want to acknowledge the thoughtful dialogue from the majority of the JMW community. I think that conversation needs to be broadened, and I think we could probably all figure out a compromise or a solution. But I think if those outliers on the JMW committee or the JMW group continue to want to trash the rest of the Pawtucket School Department as an effort to bolster their case to remain independent, they've done everything but that with me, because that kind of divisiveness will make me take a position on the item itself. So I apologize, I went off on a little bit of a path there, but in essence, what I bring before you tonight is a recommendation of the Unified High School Committee to continue to explore the idea of Unified High School at the McCoy Stadium site.
So moved.
Second. There's been a motion to proceed with conceptual plans for a unified high school at the McCoy site by Ms. Moreno. It was seconded by Ms. Bonolo. I do want to just start by saying a big thank you to Mr. Charbonneau for taking this on. I know they were long meetings, and I think that I know how many people in different minds were on that committee representing multiple different positions, and the fact that you were able to navigate that committee and bring up a unanimous recommendation that ultimately, after everyone looked at this, they said that it is a good idea for our city, for our schools to continue to look at this plan, that this is a good idea for us to continue to explore, is really amazing that you were able to navigate all those different inputs. And I do want to just second that. I agree that I really did appreciate the passionate words that I heard from JMW, and I do think that that a small arts school does have a place in Pawtucket. I really do believe that, but I also think that there's a lot that is, when we speak about some students, as Mr. Charbonneau said, it really does bother me, because not only is it a state senator, but it's two of our committee members who have, more than two of our committee members, but who recently have graduated from these high schools and are serving their community. And so I think that all of our high schools, all three of our high schools, are unique and special. And when we talk about unifying two of our high schools, which is how we went into this conversation, there's a lot that we have to think about maintaining the individuality as those two go together, and that they have their own personality, and that those students have their own identity as well. Ms. Grant, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just have a couple of things. Again, I do want to piggyback on Chairman Dewey and Mr. Charbonneau in regards to, I myself did receive those emails also. I have to admit, today I did not open a single one of them because I was a little pulled back yesterday when I had read some of them. You know, I'm all for, you know, advocating for something you want, but it should never be at the expense of someone else or something. So like I said, the ones from today just kind of ended up delete. But I guess what I wanted to figure out is, now that we made this motion, how do we proceed? So we, as a school committee, we have a time limit in regards to the money in regards to Shay. We also made a motion that at one of our meetings that we would only look at this through a certain period of time because we didn't want to hurt the funds in regards to Shay. I know we said the drilling down is still maybe about 5 weeks out, and hearing what that comes up with. So how do we come up with a plan to figure out, because we don't want to put those funds in jeopardy in case this is something that doesn't work out.
I do believe, just to clarify, that we did get that extension, so we do have till 2026 for those funds.
Right, but at one of our meetings, we, as a school committee, voted to only explore through.
We did vote to have a subcommittee that would last until a certain time. We didn't vote to necessarily stop conversation, but I do think that what you're bringing up, and Ms. Vinolo has a question as well, and I'm sorry, Mr. Knight has a question as well, that we that what is our next step? And I think that, as Mr. Charbonneau has indicated, that we currently have allocated money to explore the site. So a vote tonight would say, we're going to continue in this direction. We're not going to, you know, say stop drilling. We're going to continue in this direction and await what is found with that investment of money to explore the site. But ultimately, as far as I know, legally, that we don't have any money to decide what we're going to do with. We couldn't, for instance, say that we are going to go out to bid for a unified high school. We're going to do much more besides explore. And I think the next steps would be that the city would have to put a bond, and then we would have to have the bond approved, and then we could start the process of actually building a high school.
Well, I guess I'm more concerned about where is our cutoff before we would put the funds in regards to Shay in danger. Because we would, if we indeed needed to do Shay, we need to find a space and redo that space if this unified high school didn't work out.
If I
Dr.
just
Williams, then
really
Mr. Knight.
quickly. So what you're bringing up is a good point, because I think what we need to remember is that in order for us to go with the unified high school, we have to go back to a stage one. And that, I believe we let you know a few months back that stage one, if we're moving forward with that has to be submitted, I believe, by February 15th to get in for this session. If you don't, you have to wait till next September. So now you're really again to be submitted by February 15th. And then, you know, am I correct, Kylie? At this point, it would be September. Oh, that's so late.
May I?
Can't pull it together by February.
I'm going to go to Mr. Knight and then Ms. Vinolo. Mr. Knight?
I've been trying to get on this thing for about an hour now. One thing I'd like to point out is it has to go to a enabling legislation by the legislature to approve a bond issue being placed on a special election. That's the first thing that has to be done. Next, we have to go through a vote by the voters whether to do the unified high school, and then we have to get to that. That's a heck of a lot to do, but we have to do that also. And once this is over, Madam Chairman, could I have a moment for personal privilege?
Once the meeting is over, or once this item is over?
Once this item is over.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Okay, thank you. Ms. Manoa?
The only thing that I was going to say is they had discussed that the city did have bond rating for 300 million, and not that it would go through, but they did have approval for that rating, and that I believe September was the date that we 200 million, because we already have 100 from Shea and Tolman, and that September was the date for RIDE.
Mr. Marino?
And we also speak in the ad hoc Mr. Charbonneau, the process of public hearings as well. So I'm just curious if it's on our end or the city's end, or. Yeah, so we did discuss gauging community input and community support for this idea by a series of public meetings throughout the city, in which we could show some very preliminary renderings and have a general conversation with the broader community. I believe we were going to do that in conjunction with the council, the mayor's office. I think really, if I had to guess, we wait till the results of the site survey come back. And then I think, depending on what that shows and depending on this committee's resolution to the JMW question, then I think it's smooth sailing. I think the rest of it, we leave in the hands of the mayor's office as far as going out to special election and for the bond and all of those things that are in really in their wheelhouse and their expertise. And I think our part of it is then we start the official process once the bond gets approved and once, but I think that's a while yet. But I don't, the subcommittee has disbanded. It believed it fulfilled its charge to make a recommendation. It withheld opinion on the JMW question, I think for obvious reasons. And that decision now becomes this committee's decision to make.
Okay. Mr. Knight has another question or comment. Mr. Knight, you're on mute. You're on mute, Mr. Knight.
I believe the city has $200,000 of bond money left that they can petition to get approved, not $300,000. The money that's for Tolman and Shea has to be reallocated in a different way, in my opinion. I'm not sure if that's correct or not. At the point that we're at with this, we can't approve building a unified high school without a recommendation on what to do with JMW, number one. And number two, we need to have the soil study. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, no, I was trying to just circle back to the original agenda point and try to understand exactly what we're voting on today. So it's for the conceptual design. So is it just to say, hey, we will continue to look into this, or is it to actually put money or allocate anything towards actual action step?
I think it's Mr. Charbonneau has said at the beginning, I'm going to restate it and he can correct me if I'm wrong, that what he's bringing to us tonight is the vote of the unanimous vote of the ad hoc subcommittee to say that after 4 months of exploration, they believe that Pawtucket should continue to move forward with conceptual plans for a unified high school. And he's now bringing that to us to say for our committee to either join with that, that suggestion and say that we also believe that we should be moving in this general direction. And the motion he is bringing to us is the motion that withheld any judgment on the JMW question. He's just bringing that there was the idea to proceed with conceptual plans for a unified high school. And that was the finding of the subcommittee, as he said, which has now been disbanded because it has done what we've asked them to do. They explored it. So that's what the vote we're taking is. And then as Mr. Charbonneau has laid out, in coming meetings, we would then, one, wait to see what the findings of the Mccoy site are. And after that, we would vote based on those findings, and also on, are we looking at a unified high school of 2 schools, or are we looking at a unified high school of 3 schools? And after that, it's in the city's hands to decide how they want to put the bond on.
I think you summed it up correctly. I think I think we have a long ways to go, but I think we can get there pretty quickly, and then it's going to feel like it was a real short way to go. So, I think this is to continue to move forward. And I want to be clear to this committee, by conceptual design, the subcommittee sat and looked at different positioning of the buildings, different layouts to the building. I mean, the subcommittee did some extensive work here as to position it correctly at Mccoy. Now we got to see if Mccoy can absorb that building, and then I think we move from there.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I do think it's an exciting idea, and I'm excited that we're continuing to move in this direction. I think it could be really amazing for our city to have this, and I hope that it feels really short, as Mr. Charbonneau expressed. Seeing no further comment, I will ask, sorry, Mr. Knight, and Mr. Knight?
I didn't think we were voting to make a recommendation at this time. Am I incorrect on that?
Has been seconded, yes.
What's that? Are we making a recommendation?
It has been seconded. There's a motion and it has been seconded to proceed with conceptual plans for unified high school at Mccoy Stadium site. That's what we are voting on. Ms. Liz, will you please take a roll call?
Ms. Nolo? Yes. Mr. Charbonneau?
Yes.
Ms. Grant? Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Larby?
Yes.
Mr. Marino?
Yes.
Ms. Doobie?
Yes, the motion carries unanimously. Mr. Knight, you said you would like a moment?
Yes, I'd like a moment of personal privilege on a previous item when I couldn't get recognized on the item about Potter Burns regarding the emergency scaffolding installation. I believe that information should have gone for emergency action by the rules of the state to the school committee chairperson, who would then, as it's an emergency, sign if that is appropriate, until there was a meeting of the school committee. I believe that's the way the law reads. And I think Mr. Conley could give us the opinion of that if possible.
Yes, if the information is presented to the superintendent of these emergency circumstances, it can be presented to the chair and proceed without the formal vote that you had this evening. And if it would be helpful to the chair and the committee, I can provide you with a follow-up on the procedure under the statute so that everybody in the future can have the benefit of that process.
Please, thank you. Okay. I think I already said the motion carries unanimously. The next item is special needs subcommittee meeting dates, 1/12, 2/9, 3/9, 4/13, 5/11, 6/1. Ms. Grant? Oh, this is your item.
Oh, yeah, it's, we just, these are going to be the dates that we had chosen for our subcommittee meetings. We're looking to meet preferably once a month, God willing. And I will entertain a motion to approve.
Motion approved.
Second.
Then a motion to approve the special needs subcommittee dates by Mr. Charbonneau was second. The motion carries unanimously. The next item is also Ms. Grant's Special Education Advisory Committee reports to school committee.
So by law, each district is required to have a special education advisory board. Some people might know it as SEAC. Some districts just consider them local advisory committees, LACs. Here in Pawtucket, we do have a SEAC advisory committee. It is a committee. It's purely run and led by parents of children in special education. It can be, you know, the ranges from mild to IEPs, 504s. It's just a group that is very hard to get people involved in, like a lot of committees like the PTA and things like that. And it is supported by Dr. Andrade and his staff. There is a person who does lead it, Mr. Legendra. And he does put a lot of work into it to try to get it moving. Like Tolman, Shea, and JMW, I think they have a lot of things that they contribute to the district. Some of it, I think, really needs to kind of get out there. And I'd like to suggest or ask if someone would entertain a motion to have Mr. Legendra or someone from the advisory committee report to us, just like the high schools do. We really need to get this out there to the parents. We are on the special needs subcommittee working on some just special items to try to get the word out. Trying to speak to the different schools, the therapists, the teachers, the principals, to try to encourage parents to get involved, to try to make a difference in the district. So if I could entertain a motion for the Special Education Advisory Committee to report directly to the school committee in regards to updates, goings-ons, I'd appreciate it.
I believe it's special, we said a quarterly update after each SEAC meeting And it would happen right where there's special reports of student representatives. There would also be a special report from SEAC. It's not really quarterly, but it would be the month after SEAC. They don't happen actually every quarter, but there's
Right,
4 of
yeah,
them.
they're still working, I believe, on their committee dates. So you are correct, Chairwoman Doobie. It would be following, within the quarter or within the school year following their meetings.
I would make a motion that the chair send a communication to the head of the SEAC committee asking for quarterly updates as a presentation item for the school committee.
It's been a motion by Mr. Charbonneau that I formally invite SEAC to report to us after their meetings or kind of on a quarterly basis. It's been seconded by Ms. Vignolo. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries unanimously, and I will make sure that I send that out. And I thank Ms. Grant for bringing this to us. The next item is kind of a return to what we were talking about before, but now at the district-wide level. So this is special needs space, health and safety upgrades district-wide. I don't know if,
Anyone else want to start it? All right, so what, in the previous conversation, when we were talking about upgrades and enhancements, we took that opportunity when we had colleagues in Toronto on site and had them also visit other schools with our specialized populations. And we also have some recommendations for, as you saw in the grant, for enhanced ADA bathrooms, unisex bathrooms at those schools that house the special population. So that would be Curtis, Curvin, I'm missing one. Varia, because Varia also does the ESY, the extended school year. So those schools, to include that in an ADA enhanced bathroom. And also when Dr. Andrade was looking into furniture and those types of upgrades with Hoyer lifts, it would make sense to have those same type of high-low tables in those other schools as well. They'll be in the enhanced bathrooms, but they might be in the classrooms too as well, as long as there's spacing to have, that type of equipment instead of the flat, tables. So we have all that as recommendations. We obviously, we have to talk about how it's going to be funded. Is it going to be funded out of Essa 3? Is it going to be coming out of capital? And then Dr. Andrew, I don't know if he's still here. Is he still here? Okay. Oh, I'm taking, you also talked about materials and things like that you've reached out to staff regarding, things that they need, right?
Yeah, so I did a preliminary wish list inventory, if you will, with those 3 schools. I would like to expand that with the permission of the committee if we have that ability. But preliminary look at materials and supplies, and then also additional enhanced equipment such as upgrading bikes. Specifically, we may have a kiddo who has a modality concern or limited ambulatory needs, and we might need a specific standing chair device. Those devices are approximately $12,000 to $15,000 a piece. We have 1 or 2 in the district at this time, but they are old and antiquated, so it would be a great opportunity to look at some of those equipment and upgrade those needs.
So I've just jumped back in. So what we could do is do what we did with the, Tolman, come back with a specifics for district-wide, and then it would be, where we'd like those funds to come from.
I think if we're talking about, we just saw $36 million in Essa money that, we're just going to throw around all over the place. I mean, I think we need to get a list together of what we need, what we want, what the wish list is, price it all out, and then come back to the committee and say, to get the special needs equipment and fixtures, furniture that we need district-wide, it's going to cost this committee $5 million. Do you want to do it or not? Because I think we're going back and forth, ADA bathrooms and all the rest. Just bring us one packet and say, this is what it is, this is how much it's gonna cost, and this will take care of the district. Because too often we get bogged down in this stuff and nothing happens. We got a short period of time to use all of that money.
Right.
I think,
Can we clarify? Do we believe, I mean, I know we aren't going to get the approval until we actually submit, but are you hearing that they are looking towards special education upgrades as a reasonable expenditure of ESSER funds? I feel like, as you said, there has to be a narrative, and I feel like the narrative is, these are our students that need to be in person. They need to have high quality spaces. If there is another pandemic, or if we ever get out of this one and there's another pandemic, like, we need to have spaces that are high quality for these students. So I feel like there's a narrative there, but I don't know what Bride's going to do with approving this money.
Right. I can say that, you know, we have 20 million allotted in recommendations towards infrastructure, which seems to be high. And I think that that might be a question that they raise as to why, you know, we might not be using capital funds for those types of things. Again, I don't really know, because if you look at the programs, we're only spending 10 million, you know, on programs. So I think it's a type of thing where we either submit it under ESSA 3, and if we don't get that approval, you know, we go into capital, or the recommendation might be maybe a certain portion of this should go into capital so we can get moving on it right away. Mr. Charbonneau, I do want to speak to what you said. You know, we oftentimes say, you know, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and nothing gets done. But I will say that the health and safety upgrades district-wide is just was on the agenda for tonight. So we thought about maybe we should say, these are the things we would like to do. The issue is we didn't want to jump, you know, into that district-wide until we knew, you know.
absolutely, and I can appreciate that, Superintendent, thank you. But we saw a presentation tonight on Essa that's requiring us to have a special meeting next week. So I would think by next week, because you're right, maybe we don't want to, if the special education equipment and fixtures are going to cost us 4 million, maybe we don't want to take it out of capital. Maybe we want to take it out of Essa.
Right.
But we need to have the numbers and the facts in front of us before the meeting next week to make an informed decision.
We'll do that. We'll have that.
Mr. Knight? Mr. Knight?
I just think that we should get this money down and know how much it's going to cost us to do these things and do them. I think that we have got to stop pushing things off and stop utilizing just, well, we got to do it now because somebody complained. It's got to be done because it needs to be done. Thank you.
First of all, I do want to thank Dr. Andrade for meeting with the therapists and the teachers and the principals at the school. You know, besides the specific equipment, like the chair or some bicycles and things like that, in the furniture, I think there's also maybe you know, bulk equipment. You could maybe, you know, hopefully, you know, the balls that they use, the therapy balls, you know, maybe some of the things in regards to, you know, if speech needed, you know, some things maybe, I know, you know, just items like that they might have, that might be, you know, wearing older and, you know, they need things more updated. I know when we went to Tolman, I remember when we were talking afterwards, I had noticed that there was none of that stuff there in that room. Actually, there was nothing there. It was kind of Spartan. But, you know, I think this is equipment that these students do need. And I think we're at a point where you know, we have the money. We might not have the money in the future. And this is stuff that probably won't stay on our budget. And we know that's something. So if we can, you know, if you can get that list together and get those prices and come to us for next week, I think it would be, I think it could help your department. It could help the kids. I think, you know, the therapists, the teachers, I think they'd be very appreciative. So if you could make that a focus.
CFO Devine earlier, and there is monies that we're able to do budget transfers, so that equipment that we had illustrated in earlier to specifically address Tolman, because it was on the agenda from the last meeting.
Yeah.
We are moving forward with ordering those specific items that you just mentioned.
Okay.
So really add the materials and the supplies and make the classroom a classroom
Yeah.
that we want, that we envision. The next question would be, we want to now touch all the schools. So all our kiddos have the same opportunities fairly and equitably. So that'll be the next one. We've already preliminary started that wish list, but now I have to expand that out to the entire special education population.
Yeah, if you could.
We'll look forward to it. Thank
And,
you.
you know, get the pricing and come back to us with a packet, it would be. Let me just ask another question too. While we're at all this, does this include our transition students?
Yes.
Okay, because I know when we met in
Pre-K through 22.
Walked into the room and we had talked about, it looked very temporary, so I just wanted to make sure in regards to furniture that we were kind of, you know, talking about that also.
Yes.
So, okay, no, perfect, thank you.
Right, when you're looking at the facilities, are you also looking at the washers and dryers that we have there and what their life expectancy would be? Because I know when my daughters were in Curtis, their washers and dryers were being donated to them by people from within the school. So you want to make sure that they have that type of equipment to keep their facilities clean and take care of their students.
Will do.
So if you could do that.
Absolutely.
And do we still have stove in the transition?
So that is a conversation we did have. We actually took a tour at one of our meetings. The transition students are housed at the school department in the lower level. The area is grand. It's large. It's and they do have a kitchen area. I think we did discuss that it would need some updating. I didn't see it included in the budget, but if it's something that we could get involved with the Essa, I think that would be terrific. We talked about appliances. We talked about, you know, maybe fresh paint, counters, you know, but we had noticed, and Dr. Andre being a little more handy than myself, he noticed that it looked like the electrical was there and that we had good bones to the particular area. And actually, if anyone has been down to the preschool / special ed department in this, I wanted to say the registry, but downstairs is, you know, I guess it used to be like a little coffee shop or something when it was the registry. So the bones are really there. It just really needs just some cleaning up and some, you know, updating.
And I think, Ms. Grant, one of the other things that we heard from Dr. Andre is that the students are really happy. The students and the faculty there are really happy to have that space.
Yes.
Because instead of being with the high school, for those students who are older than our high school students, to have their own space to operate out of, it really is really special. And so making that space, improving that space, I think is really important.
And I have to say, for what they have right now and what I've heard is, and Dr. Andre, you could maybe, kind of piggyback or correct me if I'm wrong, but I think for Thanksgiving, they did a Thanksgiving dinner, so they do use, the area to try to,
It's absolutely part of the functional skills portion of the IEP.
yeah, so, if
Living
we could
skills.
enhance that and, try to, clean it up or, try to get the counter space and get the appliances in, I think it would just be fantastic for them,
Mr. Knight?
I think we're getting a little far afield here.
Okay. So we will continue this conversation, I see, when there's more information. Okay. Thank you. The next item is future bid awards, Pawtucket preference points. Mr. Charbonneau?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, I would ask that you consider through a policy allowing for Pawtucket preference points for businesses who may bid on whether it be construction services or uniform services or really any business that's looking to do business with the Pawtucket School Department. Similar to the extra credit points or the extra points we've put into bid awards in the past that recognize the MBE, WBE participation levels. I think it's time as we move into a lot of these bigger projects and start utilizing and drawing down some of the money that the city residents have approved, that we incorporate a Pawtucket preference component to our bid awards going forward. Not too long ago, we had a discussion about uniforms, and there's a firm in Pawtucket that's able to do it. They may be $300 more than the firm that's in Massachusetts, but we're going to go to the Massachusetts firm. I think as you see the furniture, and it's a great tie-in, we're going to award hundreds of thousands of dollars in bid awards tonight, and there's one Rhode Island company that gets the lowest bid award in the whole packet out of, I think they're in Hope, Rhode Island. But a lot of this money is going to Connecticut firms or Massachusetts firms. And I get WB Mason's a national player, but nonetheless, they're based out of Massachusetts. So I've spoken to Chairwoman Doobie, and I've gotten clarification from Attorney Conley that it is within our right to add this, right for lack of a better word, but it is within this committee's authority to add Pawtucket preference points. And I would ask that Mr. Labia, as chair of the policy committee, that your committee take this this agenda item if passed and develop a policy around it.
Motion approved.
Second. There's been a motion to send this to policy. Is that?
Seconded.
Motion to send this to policy? Okay, there's been a motion to send this to policy. And just for Mr. Larrabee, it's been seconded by Ms. Bonolo, and I would like to say that, Mr. Larrabee, definitely this can be your decision, but the policy subcommittee is only 2 people. And as a result, we can have a third person. I know Ms. Grant sat in when there was a conversation about a special education policy or language. So if Mr. Charbonneau does want to sit in on the conversation for that policy meeting, he could be invited to do so.
Yeah. I would ask that we entertain someone a little bit more up to speed on this stuff than myself.
Okay.
I would say Mr. Labby's a perfect candidate to handle it.
Okay.
And I would recommend maybe Ms. Devine if she's available, or potentially.
Excellent. Okay. There's been a motion to send to policy, been seconded. Any further discussion?
I think it's a wonderful idea.
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next item is approval of budget transfers. There's been a motion to approve the budget transfers by Ms. Bonola. It's been seconded by Mr. Charbonneau. Is there any wish for them to be read out or explained? Or are we good? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Devine. Hope you enjoyed those steps. The next item is recommendation to award RTAs for Henry J. Winters Elementary School furniture, fixture, and equipment packages. Hello.
Thank you for having me. Jared Jackson with Colliers, and I am here to present the recommendation to award for Henry J. Winters, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment packages. So we sent out this bid publicly and it included 16 separate categories within it, all of which the bidders were allowed to choose however many they wanted to bid on. They could bid on all of them, or they could just bid on a few of them. When the bids were received, I reviewed them with Colliers and Slam Architects, and we made sure to review that all of the pieces of furniture were approved and specified per the bid. There were a couple categories that got disqualified because they were not approved or specified. And then once those bids were brought in, they were tabulated, and I'm here to present them to you. Because companies were allowed to bid on any of the 16 categories within it, there are 6 separate companies that are getting awarded separate categories within it based on their bids. So I'm here to present those 6 categories for those 6 companies. I don't know if it's easier to do questions before I go to all of them, or if we just do all of them individually. So, well, so I have 6 of them to present, and each of them is for a separate contractor to a separate amount. I just didn't know if there were general questions.
I'd like to clarify with legal that we can have a motion to approve all of them. Okay, so.
I'm happy to read them all out as well.
I would object only, Ms. Bonola, for the fact that I struggled all weekend with technology issues, and I couldn't open these documents. I got 2 documents this afternoon. So the money that's on the table here, I think if we could take them one at a time, Jared, but if you could.
Of course.
Is that okay? Okay, so,
Thank you, Joanne.
okay, wonderful. So why don't you present the first one there?
All right, I'll start with the recommendation to award FF&E packages A, CA, P, and T to Insulco Corporation of Wallingford, Connecticut, in the awarded amount of $191,427.38.
Jared, this is for what? I apologize, but you're going to have to walk us or walk me through.
Of course,
please.
I'm happy to. So these packages are the A category, which is the admin furniture, the CA category, which is the classroom chairs, the P category, which is the OTPT items, and the T category for tables. There were 16 categories. Why don't I run through them just to give you an understanding of how it's broken out a little bit. Into A, admin furniture, B, bookcases and classroom furniture, BA, library bookcases, C, chairs, CA, classroom chairs, CB, audience chairs, D, classroom desks, L, lounge furniture, M, music furniture, P, OTPT items, R, area rugs, S, storage, T, tables, TA, classroom tables, TB, cafeteria tables, and U for utility items. There's about 153 items total between those categories, so it's a very in-depth bid. I've been spending weeks on it with the architect, so it's completely understandable that there's a lot to understand there. So these categories for Insulco that I was presenting are for A, admin furniture, CA, classroom chairs, P, the OTPT items, and T for tables.
So do we have pictures of what each?
So I don't know if I
are
presented
going to
the.
provide to us?
I'm
I'm in the same boat. I got something today with furniture, and I thought that was what Miss Liz was saying. So I had said yes to it. And then when I got here, I talked to Miss Doobie. So before this came to us, did this go to the subcommittee and we're just kind of approving their recommendations, or are we just
So this
approving this whole thing?
package was developed through multiple meetings with the architects and the principal San Martino, as well as faculty throughout the building to make sure that we're getting everything that they need in that building. It was not presented to the facilities subcommittee though.
All right, so I think going forward, things like this should go to the subcommittee. That's why we have a subcommittee, so they can make the recommendation, so we don't have problems like this.
So that we can know that they have vetted it. And
Yeah,
it's recommended. Thank you.
because for us to sit here and go through all of this is gonna take us quite a bit of time.
Ms. Benalla?
Seeing we're meeting next week, can we add this to the agenda for next week? So we can sufficiently review it? Because it'll take a significant amount of time for everybody to look forward, and you did supply us with pictures, correct?
Yes, so the pictures that I had sent out are the sheets that were presented to review. The bid documents themselves that have been sent out have about 163 or so sheets, and each individual sheet has every piece of furniture that was specified and sent out for bid.
Okay, so now that we all have this information, well, I would love to approve it all because I did have access. They haven't. So in order to be all things equal, do they want to review it? It's up to the committee. Do you want to look at it over the week and deal with it next week?
I mean, I'll speak for myself, but if the majority of the committee was able to open the documents and review them, I'm comfortable if we proceed tonight, and you'll just have to walk me through any questions I have.
I was able to look at all these to drive more than other members, but or other members don't have access. But yeah, I see Mr. Knight has a question as well. But however, I do understand that this is time sensitive because of the supply chain issues that we have. That's why we're doing furniture so early with the project when we usually wouldn't be looking at this until later. So I would be against a motion to table this at this point. However, obviously, the committee may make that motion if they wish to. Mr. Knight, you have a question?
I was only going to say that this is time sensitive.
Yeah, so I will add that I have reached out to every one of the bidders that was a tentative bidder to make sure that they can deliver on time, and I did get confirmation from all of them they can, but at the same time, they also said that there are very long lead times on a lot of these items. So some of them did ask me when they thought that bids would be issued to them. So if we are going to revisit this, I would say we should do it soon.
Principal San Martino, Ms. Chase, the members of the Winters Subcommittee, or at least members of the Winters faculty, were involved in every one of these meetings and making decisions on this stuff.
We had Principal San Martino was at every meeting, and we had representatives from every grade that was involved for each of the rooms and the specialty rooms.
Perfect.
Dr. Andrade was there for the OTPT and other, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I don't think there is a motion yet.
Motion to approve the recommendation of F and E packages A, C, A, P, and T to, what is it?
Incelco.
Incelco?
Incelco.
In the amount of $191,427.38.
And a motion by Mr. Charbonneau. On the first recommendation, it's been seconded by Ms. Grant. Any discussion on this? So please take a roll call.
Ms. Manolo. Yes. Mr. Charbonneau.
Yes.
Ms. Grant. Mr. Knight.
Yes.
Mr. Larby.
I believe Ms. Larby has had to leave.
Yes, okay. Mr. Marino.
Yes.
Ms. Doobie.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Next item would be the recommendation to award the FF&E packages B, C, CB, R, and S to WB Mason of Brockton, Mass. In the award amount of $246,516.00.
This is for WB Mason.
You want me to say the categories again? So it's going to be for B, bookcases, C, chairs, CB, audience chairs, R, area rugs, and S, storage.
When you say audience
Audience chairs are specifically for the cafeteria to be utilized. The cafeteria chairs that are not the tables. If it's an assembly area.
Is there a motion? Was there a motion to approve this one?
No, I just asked.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve the second recommendation to award the FFE package to WB Mason. Oh, I forgot who made the motion. By Mr. Charbonneau, seconded by Mr. Marino. Do we need roll calls on all of these? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Excuse me. There's a amount of money involved here that has to be a roll call.
I just asked legal. Ms. Leslie, please take a roll call.
Yes. Mr. Charbonneau.
Yes.
Ms. Grant. Mr. Knight.
Yes.
Mr. Marino.
Yes.
Ms. Doobie.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. The next one, Jared.
Recommendation to award the FF&E packages BA, library bookcases, L, lounge furniture, and TB, cafeteria tables, to Red Thread of East Hartford in the amount of $147,971.34.
Second.
That motion approved by Ms. Bonolo. It's been seconded by Mr. Charbonneau. Mr. Marino, in this lounge furniture, only because I have walked our Nathaniel Green numerous times with guests, and it's always pointed out that we purchased furniture that fire code would not allow us to actually have. Has that been clarified with any couch type furniture or furniture that is going to be in common spaces, that we are not going to have furniture that we cannot use?
We purchase furniture that we can't use?
We have at Nat Green, there is hallway. We have teachers from Nat Green here. We had ideas of putting furniture in the hallways. And after we had it out there, fire code said that we were not able to put it out there.
They use the furniture that you just can't put in the hallway.
So it's being used.
Fire
It
code
just,
doesn't allow it, at least with fire marshal, he said this is a common egress area and you won't allow it. And I believe in this design, don't we have areas that are
It's not considered the hallway, it's considered a learning commons area. So I think that should.
because if I can clarify, at least what it's been explained to me that you can't have these because if there was ever a need to leave, you might trip over this furniture that's in the hallway. You can't just have furniture in the hallway. So this furniture is not going to be.
It should be in a separate area from the hallway. The main hallway has its own aisleway and egress, and then there are bookshelves and things blocking off and making a separate area for the learning commons areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
the fire marshal has checked off on it.
okay, wonderful. Thank you. It's been a motion. It's been seconded. Ms. Leslie, please take a roll call.
Ms. Manolo. Yes. Mr. Charbonneau.
Yes.
Ms. Grant. Mr. Knight.
Yes.
Mr. Marino.
Yes.
Ms. Doobie.
Yes. Motion carries 6-0. The next item is recommendation to award FFE and E package D.
Yes, recommendation to award FF&E Package D for desks, classroom desks specifically, to Robert H. Lord Co. of Manchester, Connecticut, in the amount of $151,394.08.
Motion approved.
It's been a motion to approve by Mr. Charbonneau. It's been seconded by Ms. Bonolo. Any discussion on this item? So please take a roll call.
Mr. Charbonneau?
Yes.
Ms. Grant? Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Marino? Ms. Doobie?
Yes. Motion carries 6-0. Next item, recommendation to award FF&E package M and U.
Yes, recommendation to award the FF&E Package M and U to Envision Office of Hope, Rhode Island, in the awarded amount of $45,605.47.
And can you clarify those categories?
Sorry, M is for music furniture and U is for utility items.
The motion approved by Mr. Charbonneau has been seconded by Ms. Bonolo. Ms. Grant?
Do we have a band at Winters?
We have a music classroom.
And do they play instruments or like MO4? Like how many of those are we ordering? I'm just wondering, like, what are these going to be used for?
Yep.
Yeah.
So if they're singing, if they're participating in any type of singing, they would use a stand with the words and the music on the stand. And if they're, where our goal is to build a band.
I thought we were building the bands at the middle schools. It said on the Essa.
Right, so we're in Essa, we're looking to build a citywide district bands, but we also want to improve our programs at the elementary level. This is something, and whether it's band or chorus or singing, that's a music stand that they could use.
Okay.
There was a motion, I believe, on this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So please take a roll call.
Ms. Bonolo?
Yes.
Mr. Charbonneau?
Yes.
Ms. Grant? Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Marino? Ms. Doobie?
Yes. Motion carries 6-0. The final one is recommendation to award FF&E package TA.
Yes, recommendation to award Package TA, classroom tables, to Lakeshore Learning Materials of Cranston, Rhode Island, in the amount of $42,535.28.
And motion to approve the Lakeshore Learning Materials by Ms. Bonolo and seconded by Ms. Grant. Any discussion? Ms. Listy, please take a roll call.
Ms. Bonolo?
Yes.
Mr. Charbonneau?
Yes.
Ms. Grant? Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Marino?
Yes.
Ms. Doobie?
Yes. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much. I appreciate it.
And the next item is we're in discussion items. Okay. Kervin McCabe update. We've been getting updates on a regular basis. I know that I appreciate those updates and that the committee appreciates those updates to kind of know where we are. But I think that it's important that the committee has an opportunity to ask questions here. So I don't know if you just want to give us just a general overview, or if committee members want to just ask questions because they already know where we are. You just want to ask questions?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, based off of the most recent update that we got last week, I think there were 3 items that were identified, right? what did those, there was an adjustment that needed to be made on the rooftop unit? Right?
Yes, there was 3 items. So that dated back to earlier in the week, I believe. I apologize. I don't have that email in front of me.
We got it on Sunday, I believe. I think it was.
So, yes. So, let's see. So we went out for a service on Sunday. We did identify in contacting Delta that we were experiencing the temperature fluctuations. So they did go out there and assess, and which then warranted another follow-up meeting on Monday. You know, I just, maybe if we can take a step back, if you don't mind, and just address, you know, we know you're concerned, we feel your frustrations, and, you know, we're here as a team collectively so you can hear from all of us and the experts on the project so you can understand the magnitude of this project and where we are today. So there were multiple issues that had been identified over a series of days. I think at this point it would be, I think, helpful to understand where we are presently and to know that what's been identified over the weekend, you know, those items have been worked through, and, you know, where we are today, we'll have Allberg explain where we are. We also have the engineers, so I'll introduce them in a moment. But I'd like for them to speak to it so you can hear from them firsthand where we are on the project. So we do have Louis Tirado here with Tirado Architects. He's certainly here and he can give an update too. And then we also have Jamie Doyle with Allberg. So we would like to give them the opportunity to speak to the project as well and give an update to all of you. And so certainly ask the questions along the way.
Good evening, committee. I'm sure that you've been hearing some complaints about the heating inside the building. And the concern was that there was heating in the classrooms. However, it wasn't consistent and it wasn't throughout the whole school. What we have done, or what we did, is we called in, as Megan mentioned, we called in Delta, who came out this weekend, along with Train and Corel. They came by McCabe on Sunday, and they came by the facility on Monday. Committeewoman Bonolo was there on Monday morning. She witnessed, along with the Pawtucket School Department, with Mr. Silver, Mr. Cody, Joe, you were there as well. It was a major team effort. As I called it, it was a small army. I think one thing that we'd like to make clear is we know, as Megan said, that you guys are frustrated, 100%, and we can understand that. We're frustrated as well. What was identified, and Gary was supposed to be here, Rihanna with Delta. What they identified is that there are 2 ERVs on the ceiling of McCabe, and there's 3 RVs total that are up there. ERVs, as you probably know, you've heard it so many times, stands for Energy Recovery Ventilation. Out of these 3 RVs, there's 2 of them that have been giving the school issues. And after troubleshooting over weeks and weeks, because there are probably 1,000, and you know, the experts can attest to this, but there's probably 1,000 things that can go wrong. So after troubleshooting over troubleshooting over troubleshooting, they identified there were 2 ERVs that were giving us issues, and they needed static pressure sensors. So why is this happening? Why do we need static pressure sensors on these 2 systems? Will with EDS, he'll come up in a minute and he'll express and he'll let us know why this is happening. But just to update We have tracked down 2 static sensors for ERV1 and ERV3. They will be tomorrow afternoon. Train will be by McCabe. Will be on site to adjust the ERVs as required. And then tomorrow at 2:30, Delta and Wyman Electric will be on site to install the static pressure sensors in the duct as required. Actually, I believe it's on 112. Is that tomorrow? That is tomorrow. Yep. And then Friday, 114, Train and Corral will be on site to modify ERVs 1 and 3 as required. This work will occur during the day, and they will be working in the electrical and the maintenance office. And again, I can't, tell you as the committee, I've been in your seat before, and it's not an easy position that you hold. And we're doing our best at this point to rectify this issue. Thank you.
Mr. Sharman, you did have a question before. Would you like to ask?
No, so what's wrong with the static sensors that are in these brand new units that we bought?
I think this will be a good time to bring Will up with EDS. He's more of an expert than I am, or Mr. Torado on this.
How about Colliers? How about the firm that we pay to manage our projects for us? How about they speak to us? What's wrong with the sensors? We just installed these units. What's wrong with the sensors that are in them? Why do we have to get static sensors now?
You do need to hear EDS. I mean, you really do need to hear from Will. This was just figured out over the last day or so.
Right.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name's Will Mayer. I'm with Engineering Design Services. We're the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection engineer on the project. So we only became aware of this issue yesterday. So we've been trying to assist as we can. And I think it's important to understand that the building still has not been fully commissioned. It's not that the commissioning was complete or that all systems were approved. And now that you're having issues, this is an issue that would be experienced. It's something that you would experience during commissioning of the equipment.
Will, I'm going to interrupt you there for a second, and I'll keep interrupting as my questions come to me. But sure. When would you have expected commissioning to be completed for a job whose deadline was August 27th? Commissioning should have been long completed by now, no?
I can't really speak to the scheduling of commissioning.
Well, but how long does the commissioning take? In other words, if the project was on schedule, we would have discovered this problem months ago, right? I mean, you just brought on scene yesterday and discovered it yesterday, is that?
I don't know the entire history of it because we've only been brought in just recently.
So as you've heard, many of the systems that are in place in the building, it's a split system. There's rooftop units, and then there's also a whole separate split system. And the split system that you've been hearing about is the one that's giving us the problems. Through going through multiple methods of testing and adjustments, we've been able to identify as we go through these series what the problem is. These 2 ERVs did not have the same accessories as the third ERV. So we have to bring it.
I'm gonna have to interrupt you, Megan.
Okay.
We ordered 3 ERVs. We received 3. 2 of them didn't come with the same accessories. What's an accessory?
Sure.
Okay. So the problem is not static pressure sensors. The problem is that 2 of the units have the wrong program in their controllers.
Wait a minute.
Aren't these things tested before they let them out the door? I mean, it's not like a $10 item.
Exactly. It's not that it's a mistake. It's that it has the wrong programming. It has programming for a different situation. The situation that we have here is a constant discharge temperature, variable air volume system. What it was shipped with was a constant volume, variable air temperature control.
Okay, stop right there for 1 second, if I may.
Mr. Charbonneau.
What did we order?
The solution is simply to change out.
No, I understand. I appreciate what the solution is. That's not my question. You just explained something that got shipped to us that we took possession of, we hoisted up onto the roof, and then we put in place that's not right. So
The equipment
if
is,
that's not what we ordered, what did we order?
just to be clear, the equipment is 100% in compliance with what you need. It's simply.
But it doesn't work with our system.
It absolutely will work with your system as soon as the program is updated, which it will be tomorrow.
Can someone answer the question, what did we order? If we ordered 3 ERVs, did we order them with the correct, what is it, software now? Because Mr. Doyle told us it was a static sensor that was gonna fix the problem. So it's either the software or it's the static sensor. But my main question is, of the 3 ERVs we ordered, what did we order versus what's sitting on the roof right now?
You got what you ordered.
So we ordered the wrong thing.
It was ordered with the wrong software configuration, yes.
So who ordered it?
So I hesitate. I know that as chair, I should be, making sure that everyone's speaking respectfully. But I also understand that we have been dealing with this as a committee. And so I'm not going to apologize for the anger that is coming from my committee members, because this has been since August. We've been, it first was teachers coming to us saying, we've got problems, and we as a committee didn't even know. And then it was, but it feels like, this is the project that just keeps on going. And so I really think that what the committee is looking to hear is, where was the ball dropped? Because I don't think that we are supposed to be understanding and reviewing. I think it's wonderful that I'm learning so much about ERVs, but I shouldn't need to know this much about ERVs, that essentially this should be that conversations happened with an OPM that we are paying to understand ERVs, and that something went wrong with the ordering or the placement or the programming or whatever. And I think that what I'm hearing from my committee members is a question of, where did something go wrong? And why are we still dealing with this problem? And I feel like what we aren't hearing is someone saying, it was me, I ordered the wrong item, or, ultimately we didn't anticipate, we didn't understand how these items work, so we put it in and now it doesn't work. Because what I'm not hearing is that we put it up and then suddenly, like, we realized, something fell off and it was broken, like that we put up things that work. It's just that it was designed incorrectly, and I don't want to speak, like I said, and I'm not going to apologize to my committee members and their anger and frustration, because I feel this is the same anger and frustration. So, like I said, I think just understanding what went wrong and how much longer are we going to be in this, I think would be very helpful for me and for committee members, for someone to just explain what went wrong here.
Right. Well, I think what we've been trying to focus on is solving the problem. I don't know that we have the answer to exactly what went wrong. What we're here today to talk about is how we're going to fix it, when we're going to fix it, and when it's going to be complete. Okay. I don't know. I'm not in charge of figuring out exactly what happened, but I think we can all go back and figure out what happened after this. But I think we've really been focusing on fixing the issue as opposed to placing blame. We can always figure that out after we get school, where it needs to be in terms of temperature control.
So to that question, I know Ms. Manolo, Mr. Charbonneau, but can you answer that, the second of the questions then, and just right now tell us, when is the last time that I'm going to need to get updates on where we are with the Curvin project? Is this tomorrow?
Jamie already explained that. Yeah,
So
it's,
we're done.
I think there's stuff happening tomorrow, there's stuff happening on Friday, and it looks like by the end of the day, Friday, should be 100%.
Okay. Ms. Manolo?
When is the VOB coming in, or has it?
Yep.
So it's the POB.
The VOB's coming in tomorrow?
That piece that was missing.
Not the ERV, the VOB.
I don't know these acronyms.
We had an email that said that the VOB.
Everything needed
you
in our
can tell.
discussions today, we found that everything needed for the rectification of this issue is already in hand.
Okay.
It's a matter of getting on site, changing the program, doing everything else that needs to get done. And that's going to be done by Friday.
Okay. So we're having a meeting next week. So, Mr. Charbonneau, you did have your hand up. Ms. Grant has her hands up now, but do you still have a question or a comment?
I do have a comment. I'm sorry, Will?
Yes.
Was it? Will, and I apologize, Will, to you, because I think what's happened is the team that's worked here historically brought you in and then had you address the committee on a day's notice. I don't think it's fair to you. But I'm not letting this go because I still haven't gotten my question answered. And I think, you know what? We have a mechanism. I believe I made the motion to pull Collier's and Alborg's contract, and I believe they were sent to legal. So we have a mechanism to, to resolve issues when we can't seem to get answers, or at least straight answers. And to say I'm livid is beyond it. You guys have worked with us for a long time. And you know that if something screws up, you come in front of us and you say, listen, here's what happened, and here's how we plan to fix it, and this is when we'll be done. Not drag it out from the end of August to now the middle of January. And I believe we had a meeting where Ms. Grant specifically asked, so we're waiting on one little piece, and what happens if that little piece comes in is, oh, the system works flawlessly without it, it's just an... So it's the fact that Curvin is still not done is just mind-boggling to me.
Ms. Grant? Sorry.
So the question I have is, a couple weeks ago, myself, Mr. Marino, visited Curvin with Mr. Doyle and Megan. And the fluctuating was going on then. So we just got Train and Delta out there this Sunday.
They've been out there.
They've been out there, but when was this problem found? Was it
problem with those rooms? And honestly, we have worked so hard from the very beginning on this project, understanding the intense level of the project to try to do in the summer, and then through the fall, and our team there, literally every morning, walking through, working with all of these subs. The intent today, because we felt like we weren't getting we were afraid to take engineering information and misrepresent it, or, not be able to explain it the way Will can, because this is his specialty. So I really do believe that we have worked so hard to present a project that was complicated with a system that's complicated. So our frustration yesterday when we found this happened was the reason why they're here is because we knew we needed someone like Will to present it professionally and the level of detail that would answer your question.
But why didn't Will or someone just tell us what the problem was?
Right.
Why did you guys all go around in a circle?
Just now.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. That's why, you know.
Why
I thought-
didn't someone just step up and say, own it?
Right.
You
And
know,
I
I don't understand why you guys aren't owning this.
I can say, I don't know, like what Will just said, because this happened yesterday. I don't know where the blame is. I do know that they have a solution. The intent here, I invited EDS here. I wanted them to be here for support, to be able to answer the technical questions that are straight engineering questions because of the complexity of this. But as far as Collier's not working incredibly hard for the last months to make sure that this was delivered, the level of frustration on our team too has been extreme. So anyway, it should be fixed Friday. I'm hoping that this is all true and if we can get this and put a period at the end of the sentence. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Knight?
I understand that there was a problem getting this stuff delivered. There was a problem setting it up. It was held up. And I understand all that. What I don't understand is why we're getting excuses instead of performance. And that's what we need, is performance. Thank you.
Performance with the system working. That's
No, not performance that the system's working, that the job's complete.
agreed.
Thank you. We're good. Thank you. Oh, Mr. Knight?
Mr. Charbonneau mentioned that he asked legal to pull the contracts. Did he mean review the contracts to see what, is available to us as remedy?
Yes, he's referring to an earlier motion he made several months ago. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. Okay, we are still in discussion items. We have monthly vendor reports, budget transfer reports, overtime report, work order, and enrollment suspension expulsion reports. Questions? Okay. I'll entertain a vote to recess the executive session in accordance with the provisions under Rhode Island General Laws, Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A2, litigation for the purpose of discussing and or acting upon Solam Rosalino v. City of Pawtucket by and through its treasurer, Sean W. Strobel, CA number 121, CV 00464-MSN-PAS. Seal executive session minutes and adjourn executive session. No. We're taking them with us. So there was a motion, but so there's a motion by Mr. Charbonneau. It was seconded by Ms. Bonolo. All those in favor? Aye.
6:30?
Yeah. In open session, Ms. Lissy, can take a roll call. Ms. Bonolo? Yeah. Mr. Charbonneau?
Here.
Ms. Grant? Here. Mr. Knight, is he still here or is he?
No, I hung up on him.
Mr. Marino? Ms. Newby? Yeah. Okay. Let's go to executive session. Yes, the committee voted to allow Ms. Rabbit to sit in the executive session, to seal the executive session minutes and to adjourn the executive session.
Okay, we're on superintendent's update.
Well, there's no, I was going to speak to the teachers and the administrators, thanking them for everything that they're doing. running and our students with learning, even in the midst of the continuation of challenges due to the virus and its variants. So just a special shout out to all of our staff because they keep doing it each and every day, and we appreciate them. And that's from the custodians to the TAs to the lunch monitors to our essential office staff. I mean, everyone is just continuing on, and you know, we just sometimes forget that they all have their own lives and their families too. And so I just want to say thank you.
School committee member updates. Ms. Marino.
So in an evening that was full of finger pointing, between our vendors, I want to say that I have an spoiled by a few of the assessors who have held oversight both in the construction projects and as a there's and then to all of you, and hopefully with all of all of the help and patience that all of you who have to offer, and I will rely on all of you. Who, as it is a team effort, but I won't want to vow to increase oversight in all of our projects. In all of our projects. Checks and to hold off on the agency that had our that all of us have been fortunate to experience in previous construction projects. It's evolved, and I'm more positive, and so thank you, and I will be in touch with all of you to see how we can improve it, and I can improve it.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. I was just thinking about what I wanted to say, and I was going to sing. I was going to sing.
Go for it.
So long, farewell. Have a good night, guys.
Mr. Charbonneau.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I will be brief. It's unfortunate that everybody has left, but we still are on the record, and I did want to acknowledge, because I don't think I did when I was representing or speaking to the Unified High School issue. I think both the mayor's office and the council have worked collaboratively with us to some extent on that item. And, you know, it hasn't been a secret that I've disagreed with the mayor, and I have been at odds a bit about this whole topic. But I do want to say that he has been fully supportive of it in the discovery phase. He has availed himself or his office of different information and requests from me, from the Unified High School Committee. They've done it professionally and courteously, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. So I wanted to mention that in my update. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vanillo.
It has been an interesting meeting. Mr. Charbonneau, thank you for the ad hoc. You did a wonderful job on it.
Thank you, Ms.
I
Vanillo.
appreciate your service. I'd love you to do it again.
Yeah.
And good night.
Are you going to sing anything?
No, I'm just going to say to everyone on this committee and anyone who might still be there, I know these long meetings are hard. I hope that we can realize that there was a lot that we covered tonight. And I know sometimes it doesn't feel like that, but this committee is doing great things. We are providing the oversight that we should provide as a committee. And I can hope that we don't have long meetings every meeting, but there's a lot going on in this district right now. And it's important work, and I'm so honored to be able to do it alongside all of you, alongside Joe and Stephen. And I thank everyone in the district who is working to keep our schools open during this very challenging time. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry. As we adjourn, I would like us to adjourn in the memory of a school committee member who served for 15 years in a seat like us, James Carimo. In addition, his wife was an employee at the school, and his daughter-in-law works in the admin building. And so I'd ask us to adjourn in a motion of silence, if I can get that motion.
Motion.
Second.
And a motion to adjourn in a moment of silence.